Whoa, we are live, I believe. So, welcome everyone. I hope you are enjoying yourselves on this Wednesday. I know we don't normally upload anything on a Wednesday, but there's some interesting and recent productions that have come about. But before we get into that, welcome to Get the Mic podcast. Um, I have a different host today. I am still your host on the left, Owl, but today my host on the right is
Gandalf the Red.
Gandalf the Red, and he is a big Gandalf the Red fan of Star Wars. And so he asked if I would mind watching Kenobi, and I said I wouldn't mind watching as long as we can stream about it. So here we are, streaming about Kenobi. Before we get started, though, if you like what you hear, give us a like, give us a subscribe. That red subscribe button down there is calling your name. Click the bell notification to be updated with all our new videos. We upload new videos normally on Monday and Thursday for YouTube, and Tuesday and Friday for Rumble. So watch us on either of those platforms. Other than that, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Uh, Gandalf, did you have anything you wanted to add before we start?
Uh, Avoid Kenobi like the plague, and we're about to explain why.
Sounds good. Sounds good. All right. Let's go ahead and see these first set of clips. So the first thing I want to talk, I think we should talk about the good parts of the show first. Don't you agree?
Sure. Uh, Flashbacks are, well, as you were talking earlier, and you're right, like, feel some serious nostalgia. I do the flashbacks or like the callbacks to the prequels. Like, those parts are good, but the rest of it is not.
Right.
Uh,
And so the first thing we
yeah.
see in the show is kind of a recap of what happened at the end of episode 3, right? Actually, a recap of the very first thing we see of Obi-Wan Kenobi is this like recap throughout the whole prequel trilogy. And
Yeah.
so here, I selected these clips because this is in the very beginning. It really gives us what the show could have been like, because it could have been like the prequels. It just kind of chooses not to be. Um, and but we do get to see Anakin becoming Darth Vader. We get to see him as a slave being rescued by Qui-Gon, and it's really it's really annoying. It's unbelievably unself-aware of them, because they put a clip into this selection um where Obi-Wan Kenobi realizes that Anakin is now named Darth Vader by Sidious. He sees it in the projection, and it's going to be a plot point later on in the show, and it makes no sense. But I'll go ahead and let Gandalf say some.
Sure. But before we get too far down the road, am I supposed to be seeing a stream somewhere?
Oh, if you want to watch it live, you can. I forgot to go live here. Hold on.
Okay.
I'm going to be quiet. I'll hook you up, Gandalf. Here you go. You can see that on Discord, right?
Yeah, there we go. Okay.
Those were the clips I'm talking about. So fixed.
Okay. Beans. Yeah, you get this. Well, to to back up a little bit, one of those clips at the beginning of the first episode where they're showing the Order 66 thing playing out and the Jedi Temple getting attacked. Oh, geez, what's this? I
Wow,
apologize.
unprofessional.
Sorry, I forgot to turn my phone off. Hey, stop. Sec.
Embarrassing.
Embarrassing.
Give him a break. This is Gandalf the Red's first show. Brock and I have a very professional ethic. None of our phones go off during him, but it's Gandalf's first time. Go ahead. Wait, are you taking the call? What is happening right now? Did you take the call? Ooh. Ooh, goodness. So I have to fill air now. Anyways, as I
Sorry
was
about that.
talking. Okay. Back. We're back.
Cool. Yep.
Take it away, Gandalf the Red.
All right, gentlemen. Should probably turn my phone off.
Yeah. Go ahead and do that.
Okie doke. We're good. Right. So yeah. Anyways, in one of those flashback scenes where they're showing the temple under attack, it just it looked. I mean, there was a nostalgia factor, but it also looked way too staged because when whoever the teacher was, she gets shot by a clone trooper, and then she falls and dies. Then you get these five kids that all
Oh,
run
hold
up
on, hold on,
behind
hold
her.
on. I don't think we're that
Yeah.
far yet, Gandalf. I was just
Oh,
talking
we're not
about the
even
very beginning clips. But we'll talk about that in a
okay.
second. I agree. It's
Right.
worth talking about. Oh
Right.
no, no, no. There's no mythological significance, Chris Sombra. In fact, we're gonna talk about how it breaks the mythological significance. This really
Yeah.
might have been better named shit the mic or shit on the mic. We haven't decided yet, but this is one where we're shit talking it. But we are gonna
Okay.
talk about mythology. Glad you're here. Glad you're here to watch. Go ahead, Gand.
Yeah. So I guess yeah. Before that, uh, it I got goosebumps when I was watching those clips of or those flashback scenes, and I just thought like, man, this is gonna be a good show. Then it wasn't.
Yeah, well, you have Qui on there. Well, specifically, I mean, you have Qui on there, right? It shows the build up in the mythos that's behind the prequels, and I guess we should talk about the prequels a little bit because, I mean, you said the other day, Gandalf, you were like, "Oh, you're right about Rogue One." I have to say, you're. It's my turn to admit you're pretty much right about the prequels. Um, I still have to say, the second movie is bad. I can barely watch it, but Revenge of the Sith is excellent, and the ideas that are in Phantom Menace are really good. And the way it plays out is um, very in line with the mythos of the original Star Wars. Right, you still have the family lineages. Right, you have Anakin birth of immaculate conception. Right, and not to get too far into that because I think Star Wars deserves its own series on this channel. Um, but I do just want to briefly mention those things, and it fits in with the mythos well. It explains the, let's say, the corruption of the heroic spirit, which is Anakin here. Um, and so it's very almost deceptive for them to start playing these clips first because this is not how the show is going to play out. But I wanted to include them because they have that rooting in that it's exposition. It's exposition, but it's done in kind of a good way. Do you have anything else to add,
Yeah.
Gand, about that?
It's a so a friend of mine is I can't fathom why, but she is thoroughly enjoying the Kenobi show. But she's also not a Star Wars fan. Like she hasn't seen the original movies or the prequels. So she has no concept of what Star Wars is or what it means to the fans. Uh,
Well, let's
and
talk about that then.
yeah, So
What
like
what is
that
Star
the
Wars,
sorry.
Gandalf? What is Star Wars?
Star Wars is, and this is going to sound cliche, but it is the hero's journey. Uh, and there are two heroes. Let's say there's Luke Skywalker. I'll know and love his story, and there's also Anakin Skywalker, his father. And that hero of Anakin doesn't seem to be a hero until the last movie of well, episode 6.
The
Uh,
last movie.
yeah, the last real movie, and so you see what ends up redeeming Anakin Skywalker is this idea that he has a son and that he wants his son to not go down the same path that he did. Uh, and thus turns around and kills the Emperor himself. Uh, so sorry, spoilers, but
I think we're past
it's
that.
yeah, all right. It's I like the arc of Anakin more than I like the arc of Luke, because you get to see this innocent kid grow up to be a great Jedi. Then you end up seeing how uh, lust and greed and jealousy can end up weaving their way in someone's persona and twisting them into something they're not. They also kind of are, and then how can someone justify their actions? And anyway, it's fantastic. Darth Vader's my favorite character, and I hate seeing what they've done to him in
And the reason Darth Vader
Kenobi.
and Anakin Skywalker are so compelling to so many is because, yeah, he is the hero of it. Which, I mean, there is a hero's journey within the hero's journey, which is what you were talking about with Luke. But overall, it's the uh, it is a mythological story because you have the elements of it. You have the spirituality of the Jedi, right, who are order based, and you have the Sith who are chaotic based, right? If you want to use order and chaos. And really here the black dot in the white paisley of the yin and yang, that little chaos that exists within the order of the world, is Sidious, right? And he is the one that gets to the hero, and that's actually the ultimate win for the evil, let's say, for the adversarial spirit, is the destruction of the idea of the heroic spirit. And since Anakin was the greatest hero of the Clone Wars, which I don't know if you've seen Clone Wars, Gandalf. Um,
I've only seen a couple of them. The ones involving
the
Darth Maul.
the original. Oh gosh, I'm not talking about those. I was talking about the animated show from the early 2000s. It was excellent. I don't know about the new 3D show, but at being one of the greatest heroes of the Clone Wars, everyone looked up to him. Right? It really is that showing. Um, Anakin, he's almost propelled into that hero position though, because he doesn't earn he does I guess that is right. He doesn't really earn the heroic heirloom, let's say. Because let's in the first movie, he goes with them and doesn't really do anything until the end of the movie when he like turns off the droid ship, right? Now, there's no like shadow integration there. There's no him realizing a truth about himself, or realizing like a great truth about the world, right? He just kind of destroys it, which is why I mean the prequels do have flaws. They're set up in a way to almost, and they look so terrific when they're played back in sequence, just in clips, because the symbology and the imagery is so vivid. But like how it plays out. So in the first movie, when Anakin destroys the droid ship, right? That's not mythological, let's say. But
Yeah,
he
it's
he
just
doesn't really
a
earn the title, and so since he doesn't earn the title, he has that arrogance, right? Which is the first step. because the unholy trinity is arrogance, deceit, and resentment. And so arrogance first, and then deceit comes later when Anakin says that he he thinks the Jedi are evil. Let's say, because I think we know that he knows that's not true.
Yeah.
And so there's deceit in there, thinking he's going to get away with it, and then the resentment comes after Obi-Wan cuts off his arms and legs, right? He burns in the fires of hell for his sins. Because the
Mm.
greatest sin, right? According to Dante, the greatest sin is what, Gandalf?
Betrayal.
Right. And so that's exactly what Anakin does. He betrays, I mean, everyone he knew, the whole Jedi Council, everyone, all of them. And so it's the fall there of the heroic spirit, the Logos, and seeing how the best among us is capable of the worst atrocities, let's say. And
Sure.
then it's redeemed when in the original trilogy, Luke Luke is the one that redeems him. Can you close this? And that's significant, right? Because what redeems the sins of the father but the son, and that's exactly what happens in that, is that it's not Anakin alone. Anakin alone cannot redeem himself. He's mired in the hell that is Darth Vader. But once he interacts with Luke for the first time, that's his first steps out of it. And so in this show, we're supposed to see Vader at his most evil, and we'll talk about that when we get there. But and so we see that Luke, by learning to adopt the proper path and learning to accept the balance of the force, right, and striving to achieve that, he what do I want to say? He spares his father's life when the Emperor tells him to kill him. And so, spoilers, Darth Vader kills the
I think
Emperor
we're
when he's
beyond that.
about to kill Luke. Right, exactly. We're beyond that. And so he does end up fulfilling the prophecy. He does bring balance to the force by destroying the Emperor. And it's not to say, because I think originally, too, George didn't mean for the Jedi and the Sith to be like, oh, one of them could be right, one of them could be wrong. It's like, no, there's a proper path to it. But the issue with the Jedi is that they became too blind in their original state in the Old Republic, or the it's not the Old Republic, the Republic in the prequels, and it's not so much saying that the Sith could be right about these things. And so that brings us to kind of where we are now with Vader and Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan supposedly watching over Luke on Tatooine, and the senator, I forgot his name, takes Leia to Alderaan, which, spoiler alert, gets destroyed in the first Star Wars movie. So, anything else you want to add here to this flashback? I think we've touched on the significance of Star Wars. If you want to continue talking about that, I think it'd be appropriate now.
Um, I think we're good.
Okay. So, in that first episode, we see some things. This is not it though. Hold on. Nope. Is this it? Yeah, so in the first episode, it starts off on Tatooine. We see Obi-Wan's life. He apparently has joined some type of work. I don't know what he does, but he like chops up meat or something.
Yeah, it's like a
He
meat packer, butcher, or something.
yeah, and he talks to Owen Lars a little bit about Luke, saying that he needs to train him, and then Owen kind of throws it in his face. But also these Inquisitors, who I don't like at all, but I don't know. I guess they've been part of the lore for a while. But I don't really like these Sith Inquisitors at all because there's only supposed to be two Sith, and apparently there's like all these other Sith running around with lightsabers. So that was
Yeah,
supposed to be a rarity, like right there, like when Riva right there is using her lightsaber. I'm like, what is this?
yeah,
The how can society get to a point where they were in A New Hope, where no one had like seen or heard of a Jedi, if they're like still around.
Yeah. Uh, I know this episode is about Kenobi, but something I want to point out for anyone who has seen Rise of Skywalker, that's one thing that really, really irked me about that movie. Uh, is there's only supposed to be two Sith, a master and apprentice. However, at the end of Rise of Skywalker, you see like thousands of Sith. There's like a stadium full of Sith. They're all chanting on to Palpatine. Anyway, that's a different story. So
Wow. Okay. Well,
yeah,
that's gonna have
it's
its own
bad.
shit
So
shit on the mind.
yeah, there's how old is Luke in
Luke is
New
10
Hope?
in this. Oh, in A New Hope, like
It's like early
17.
20s.
No,
Okay.
no, because I guess let's look it up. Luke Skywalker. Brave says never heard of him.
Well, it's brave, smart.
Born 2 days after Empire Day, 19 years before the Battle of Yavin. So he was 19.
Okay.
Right
So
in the
we've got
middle.
this. All right. We've got this show, Kenobi. Takes place 10 years after uh, Revenge of the Sith. So that means there's going to be another 9 years between now and A New Hope. So yeah, to your point, it's like 9 years is not long enough for people to forget about Jedi and Sith.
Yeah, they're running low on time, especially because this bitch is going around with her lightsaber all about. I
Yeah,
thought
it's like
that the Jedi
everybody
hunting
knows
was
who they
something
are.
that Darth Vader did alone. Like I didn't know all these were involved with it.
I heard there was, well, so I'm not caught up on Disney's fan fiction, excuse me, Disney's lore. Uh, but I have heard that there's a plot line involving the Inquisitors, particularly like that one Inquisitor that has his, the white face paint and the tear marks.
The Asian
Uh,
guy or the other guy, the bald one?
the other, yeah, the bald one.
Okay.
And he actually is supposed to live quite a bit longer. So Disney actually breaks their own canon, killing him off early.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
We'll have to
Yeah, again, I can't speak to that in a factual way because I haven't seen it, but that's just something that a friend of mine told me about. It's like, all right, well, that's good to know. So yeah, anyway,
even worse, even worse.
yeah, yeah, this whole inquisitorial squad. That's what they call it in Harry Potter, right? The inquisitorial squad.
I
Anyways,
don't know. I'm not a Harry Potter fan, as you know.
okay. Uh, it, it's so there's three of them, or that we know of. One of them is now dead. That leaves Riva and the Asian dude. I call him Samurai Jack. So I don't know his actual name.
Well, I don't think we even hear his name. Like, how are we supposed to even know who he is?
I don't know. But yeah, Samurai Jack sounds way better than whatever his name is. So those two, and they're always flashing their lightsabers and they're threatening people, and it's like you need to kill off all these people in order to make Sith into a myth instead of these the police that everyone
Y-
sees.
The Gestapo, and it's like, no, that's what stormtroopers were supposed to be, and now
Yeah.
stormtroopers have just been demoted. I guess I don't know. So, anyways, in this first episode, we see several things. We see Kenobi in his life watching over Luke. We also see Leia, and let's talk about Leia next. How did you feel about Princess Leia?
Uh, she is. Have you ever seen the? Well, you're not on Facebook. Every now and then, particularly around debate season and election season, you'll see people on Facebook post some story about my 7-year-old daughter asked me this extremely insightful question. And it was all phrased perfectly, and etc., etc. And if my 7-year-old can understand this, why can't our elected officials understand this? It's like, okay, yeah, clearly mom wrote that, not the daughter.
Clearly,
And
yeah.
yeah, so that's just kind of how I'm thinking of Leia. She's both,
Like that's the whole meme of that
yeah,
is her. Yeah. She talks like
yeah,
an adult. I agree. I agree with that.
yeah. There's this scene. I know I'm jumping ahead of myself, but this kind of sums up Leia. This character of Leia, this poor depiction of Leia. Uh, there's this
Wait, are
scene
you
where
saying
she,
you're a fan of Princess Leia?
Princess Leia, yeah, sure, definitely, but not this Princess Leia.
I thought all Star Wars fans were misogynists.
I don't know where you heard that, man. So, anywho's, yeah, there's this scene where he comes to just a retarded conclusion. Uh, she says something about they kidnapped me to get to you, therefore you're the real kidnapper.
Oh yeah.
Anyone with two brain cells to rub together would not come up
You
with that
are
conclusion.
skipping ahead though. You are skipping
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah,
So
I,
we
I
haven't
know, I
even
know.
talked about her getting kidnapped yet.
Yeah, but it's like that character is both extremely insightful and dumb at the same time.
Yeah,
kind,
exactly. And
kind
so
of like Eric Weinstein. You know
oh
who I'm
wow,
talking
we're
about.
going there. We're going there.
Oh, so you do
I
know
didn't
who
know
I'm
we're
talking
calling
about.
out. I mean, I know. Yeah, I know
Okay,
Weinstein.
okay,
I know Eric Weinstein. I know both of them actually. I know of both of them. I've never met them personally.
okay.
Anyways, so to get back to the point here, the Inquisitors are looking for Obi-Wan Kenobi. They've been sent by Darth Vader kind of implicitly, although we haven't heard that exactly yet. And so by he I mean Obi-Wan waits in this crowd as the crowd is threatened to reveal the Jedi who lives among them. And Owen is actually threatened here. I should have gotten the clip. Owen is threatened by Reva, who is the third sister. I don't know what that means. They don't really explain it ever, but they always call her third sister. Then she threatens Owen, saying that she'll kill him and his family if the town doesn't reveal where the Jedi is. And Obi-Wan just hides this whole time and doesn't do anything, just like hiding, cowering in a cave. Not a cave, but like I don't know, is it like a stable or something? I don't know.
Yeah, it looked like a stable.
And so he hides there, and luckily she as in Reva is stopped by the White Inquisitor, the Grand Inquisitor, and he's like, chill out because oh my god, and her acting is so bad. It's really bad. She's like the worst character in this show by far, even worse than OP Leia, which I'm about to talk about. So we do get a glimpse of Leia on Alderaan. She's like running through the forest and stuff, and dunking on her non-existent cousins, which is another issue that I have, is that her cousin, quote unquote, says that you're not even a real Organa, even though no one is supposed to know. No one
Yeah,
knows that. Like, you don't think that Grand Moff Tarkin would point that out to her, like rub that in her face or anything when he had her captive on the Death Star? No, no one knows that. That's the whole point. But no, her like 10-year-old, no, I guess he's like 12, 13-year-old cousin knows and points it out to her. And so she gets all pissed off, and her parents are like, "You need to apologize." And she says the stupidest line with the worst delivery that I've heard in this show. and I think it's something like this. It's I'd rather get digested by a Jacko beast, and it's said with such non-intonation, and it doesn't even sound like a kid. It just sounds like an adult's words coming out of a kid's mouth.
Yeah.
So this is all
That's
to
pretty much
say.
Leia in a nutshell.
This is all to say, yeah. And so then her parents get upset with her because she doesn't want to apologize, and she runs out into the forest and gets kidnapped. Her father, Senator Organa, goes to Obi-Wan Kenobi and says that he needs him to rescue her, and this is his last battle because I even forgot to mention there's another Jedi that comes around to Obi-Wan who's like, "Help me, Obi-Wan." Obi-Wan's like, "Fuck off."
Yeah. There's something I want to talk on, but go ahead and finish with
No.
this. Okay.
I think we're a good spot. Go ahead.
Okay. So there's that scene where the other Jedi comes to finds Kenobi. A somehow knows who he is. I guess recognizes him or whatever.
How?
Uh,
Where are all these Jedi coming from?
yeah, I don't know.
Remember
Because
Order
Obi-Wan,
66? Obi-Wan
yeah,
and Yoda were supposed to be like the only ones that survived.
yeah. So somehow this guy recognizes Obi-Wan, but Obi-Wan does not recognize him. So it's like, well, how do these two know each other? Or how does this guy know who Obi-Wan is? So anyways, Obi-Wan pretty much just tells him to fuck off and bury his lightsaber in the desert. And just refuses to help him. So at
Okay,
first I
I
was,
gotta
yeah,
pause there. Hold on.
okay.
Pause there. What is with Disney and burying lightsabers in the desert? Why? He
I don't know,
doesn't
it's
get.
like,
He doesn't give Luke his father's lightsaber from the desert. He has it in his house. Like, oh, it's so stupid. Sorry, I
yeah,
just had to interject there because I also know that happens in Rise of Skywalker, right?
yeah,
Yeah, so I
it
don't
does.
understand their obsession with it. What the hell?
Yeah. Burying stuff in the desert is like the worst place. Well, especially on Tatooine desert is like the worst place to bury something. Because sand dunes are not permanent.
You're not gonna know where it
Like,
is exactly.
you're not going to be able to find it. You bury something one day and it's in a different place the next day. Uh, yeah, anyway, is that scene. And at first, where I thought this was going was Obi-Wan is skeptical of this Jedi, thinking, oh, this person is an Inquisitor looking for me, therefore I'm going to pretend to not be a Jedi. Uh,
Turns out
so
no.
that's not where it was going. It turns out Obi-Wan has just completely lost faith in the idea of the Jedi and tells the guy to bury his lightsaber and leave the lifestyle behind. Now, 5 minutes later, in the next scene, when he approaches Gollum, or the other way around, wherever he's talking with Owen, he says, "We need to train Luke once he starts showing." It's like, second, you just said that the idea of the Jedi needs to die, and you need to go underground and never be heard from again. Why would you want to train this 10-year-old kid that you claim to care about if that is your real belief?
It's
Right?
really inconsistent because then
Yeah.
later on he's asking Qui-Gon for guidance and strength, and it's like I thought you didn't believe in that anymore.
Yeah. It'd be like a Mormon saying, uh, I've left this life behind, and then telling their kids, hey, you need to go to church with me tomorrow. Just, it's a complete contradiction of character.
Yeah, and we're gonna get into some of the trauma he has. By the way, I'm expecting this stream to be like maybe 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours. Just so you guys know that are watching, if you want to like take a break, come back, play it back, whatever, feel free to do so. Because we still have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, we're like
What do
10
you
minutes
think?
into episode one.
Yeah, I know. What do you think about the hermit aspect? So the hermetic, let's say, tradition of the Jedi Order.
I like it, but it wasn't done well. It's a good callback to what Yoda was doing on Dagobah in episode
Well,
5.
I mean, that's what I always thought Obi-Wan was doing, right? Being in solitude.
Yeah.
And that's what hermits are. They live in solitude. They don't go about in society, right? And go to the market and like do all that. They don't do that. Yoda is so far away from civilization that he can't do that. And the fact
Hmm.
that Obi-Wan's doing that is kind of silly in my opinion. Like why would Obi-Wan have to have a day job?
Yeah, doesn't. It I don't know why. Uh well, maybe so the Disney reason is probably because they needed an excuse for him and Owen to meet up in the market so they could have that scene of Reva interrogating Owen. Uh
But yeah, then it's all set up for Riva, which actually
yeah,
makes sense to what they're doing because that's what it kind of seems like. It's all set up for Riva anyway.
yeah. It'd be hard to justify her landing somewhere in the middle of nowhere, have a
So,
conversation with a moisture farmer.
and I do want to mention that the reason I bring up the Hermetic Order of the Jedi is because the or the Hermetic tradition is because when the Jedi are defeated, right? What does Yoda do? He says he's going into exile. Kenobi's also going into exile. They're both going to live as hermits. And why would they do that, Gandalf? Why do you think they would do that?
Two more than one reason. So the hermit, I don't know if how aware you are or the general listening audience is. The tarot card, the hermit, I believe it's number 7. Anyways, uh, that card had it depicts a man. He's wearing a long robe. He has a staff in one hand and a lantern in the other hand, and that symbol depicts somebody who is a separated from society, but is also a guardian of wisdom. That's what the lantern represents. Or like secret wisdom, stuff you're not supposed to know about unless you go looking for it. And the way he's holding the lantern uh, is like his sleeve of his robe is partially obscuring the flame. So it's like if you were standing on his left side, looking at him, you wouldn't be able to see the lantern. So symbolic of you're not supposed to know about us unless you go looking. That's the hermit, the
Well, that's
guardian
a
of
good
secret knowledge.
yeah, I think that's a good way to put it because um the not supposed to be known thing, right? So why they go into a hermit mode of living is because after they've been defeated, they have to preserve the knowledge of the, let's say, the spiritual father, because that's really what they follow. Like Yoda is a spiritual father for Luke. Obi-Wan Kenobi is a spiritual father for Luke as well. Um, and his celestial parents obviously are is Anakin, Padme, but don't want to get too into that. More of what I'm getting at here is that the reason that they go into that is to preserve they want to preserve the tradition of order. That being not just the tradition of order, but also to give some introspection to why it is that they were so blinded. So it's really a process of the blind father, right?
Hmm.
And we see the story in the beginning, like Yoda even mentions multiple times that his ability to see into the future with the Force has been clouded. That's all throughout the prequels. And so we see that how the blind father can redeem his own sins, because Yoda has an arc as well, if you notice throughout the 6 movies. If you're just watching 4, 5, and 6, it's not as clear because we don't know the mistakes that Yoda made. But once we see the prequels, it's pretty clear, right? And so we see that the reason they go into that hermit way is so that they can preserve the tradition and the motive being that the Jedi represent in a world that's ruled by tyranny, right? That becomes that little black dot in the white paisley, which is of total tyranny. That little black dot representing the rebels, which is why the whole rebel, the idea of the rebellion, right? It's an anti-order idea, and it's good oriented in the original trilogy because it's against a tyranny, right? Just like the other way around. A whole let's say like what is a good example of this actually? Oh, a good example would be like Sauron and Lord of the Rings. So in Lord of the Rings, you have the white, or let's say the black paisley ruled by Mordor, right, and the white paisley within that being the forces of the free peoples of Middle Earth, like standing against them for order instead of chaos. Just to give another comparison, and so. Whew. Lost my train of thought there for a second, Gandalf. And so, right, and so they adopt that hermetic order to preserve that tradition of the Jedi. What do you think about that?
Yeah, definitely. There serves as sort of a self-punishment in having failed what they believe. Well, they have failed their mission essentially, which is to keep order and hold back the forces of evil, and they completely botched that. Uh, so they decided, okay, well, there needs to be some kind of a responsibility or some kind of a discipline upon us, and we need to preserve what we have left. And like, how can we bring this system back to life? Well, we can't do it now because there's only two of us left, and the Sith are too powerful, so we need to meditate on this, and also make sure it doesn't die out. And if they were to stay in the limelight, or
It would
a day
definitely die
job,
out,
yeah,
or a day
get a day
job,
job,
or
okay.
helping this Jedi and all that. Exactly. Which
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
like
you're
they
getting
put
to my
themselves in
point.
danger. Yeah,
You're getting to my point, Gandalf. That the whole idea of him being involved with this at all is not nothing. This should not happen.
yeah.
Um, but I also want to say one last thing about that is that as Obi-Wan and later Yoda are instantiations of the spiritual father, that is what happens when the the society is has become under the rule of a tyrant. And you can actually see this play out in not only fiction but in history, because what happens when the rule of a tyrant comes about is that eventually that tyrant is overthrown, right? You see that white dot in the, or that black dot in the white paisley of tyranny, and that black dot is rebellion that overcomes it, right? And so when a tyrant takes over a land, it's only a matter of time until that happens. But when that tyrant has control, really the spiritual father is banished from the land. And so Palpatine, what Palpatine has done is not only has he destroyed the spirit of the hero, but he has completely banished the spirit of the spiritual father. And so Palpatine is one of the greatest villains of all time. I think we can all agree on that. He orchestrates a very believable order of events that makes it to where he controls the world. In fact, the galaxy. And so because he's able to manipulate it in that way, um he actually kind of achieves one of the greatest victories we've seen in any villain in fiction. And so by banishing the spiritual father, Obi-Wan and Yoda necessarily have to go into hiding, or rather being hermits, or is what they're supposed to be, not meat packers.
Yeah, showing
And
up in
so,
town every day, like that's dumb. You're neglecting your responsibility as a Jedi by showing your face in town every day. Like,
right, I thought he was supposed to be trying to communicate with Qui-Gon. He should be doing that like the whole time until he's able to. I know
yeah,
that they're trying to make that a big payoff for the end, but I don't know how many more episodes I can stomach.
I think there's only six or seven episodes. We're on five,
Thank God. Well,
so
we haven't seen 5 yet,
yeah,
because
we haven't.
I will say, while both of us have seen the show, we have not paid Disney.
This is true.
That's the end of the sentence.
Yep.
So, anyways, I think that really covers a lot of the first episode. The only two things more that we need to mention are the Inquisitors themselves. We briefly touched on them, and Leia's kidnapping. So the Inquisitors themselves, as villains, how are they instantiated? They're like, oh, we're gonna cut your arms off until people tell us what we want to know. It's like, I don't think Vader ever did anything like that. I'm pretty
No,
sure
he was a
Vader.
pretty direct interrogator.
Yeah, but not only that. What is with this? Like, we're gonna pull our lightsabers out at the drop of a hat every time we can. It's like in the original trilogy, the only time the lightsabers came out is when like two Jedi, or two Sith, or a Jedi and a Sith more frequently would be fighting. Like, other than that, remember, because think about this: Han, the unforgettable battle, Han versus Darth Vader. What happens?
Just shoots at him, and Darth Vader puts his hand up and just takes it.
Yeah, he just
And
uses the Force to
yeah,
not to to just destroy any chance that he could possibly have, right? But here
yeah.
it's like, oh, we got to pull our lightsabers out and cut people's hands off. It's like, no,
No, you don't
you
actually.
don't have, exactly, you don't. And the fact that it's so overt and like in your face is, I don't like the feel of this, quote, empire, end quote. It doesn't feel like the empire. It feels like the First Order.
It's like they're so the thing about the Empire in the original trilogy is they ruled based on fear, like implicit fear. They didn't flash their greatest weapons unless they were trying to send a message on a grand scale.
Yeah, I mean, here's how it should be. If someone was
And
trying to
it's like the
find, go ahead, Gandalf.
I was gonna say like lightsaber is as a weapon, it's a pretty scary thing on its own, but uh, the more you see it used, the more desensitized you become to it. But it'd be like someone walking around with a, I don't know, an M16 rifle. It's not, or let's make it even bigger, like an F-22 Raptor, like a jet. Imagine if those things were flying over all the time. You wouldn't care. Someone says, "Oh, we're gonna, bomb your neighborhood." Okay, well, I see
Right,
these
but
things all the
also
time, but it's the
this.
idea of it that's fucking terrifying, and that's what they're flashing the thing instead of the threat of the thing.
I mean, there's an easy way to go about it. Right, like you have one Inquisitor go down there with like 20 stormtroopers, and they just like, I mean, they hold them there the same way they do in this, except you don't need the screaming of Riva. Like, you just have, maybe not 20, like, I don't know. They have digital software, things like that. I sound like a boomer right now. They have video editing. Like they can put in more troopers. Give them 100. Like if there's 100, if you put 100 troopers in there, and then you have the Sith Inquisitor be like, all right, well, this is more than the town of troopers. You guys are gonna do what we want. They don't have to. You don't have to yell at all. But Riva like yells at them. I'm like, oh, it's so cringe. It's so cringe
Yeah.
because you don't have to do that. Like, let's give a historical example or a historical scenario because I don't know if this actually happened, but it probably did. Very, very likely did. Um, I just can't name a specific example right now. But so let's say a town in the 18th century uh was at war with its neighbor, and the town gets surrounded by artillery, by cannons. Actually, let's say 19th
Hmm.
century, by cannons, and they say, "All right, we have your town surrounded. We will bombard you, or you will like surrender to our terms." You know, there's no breakdown of uh like yelling at them. I don't understand this because also in Disney Star Wars we've seen the ginger of the First Order. He yells at people all the time. Kylo Ren yells at people all the time. Snoke yells at people all the time. It's like you don't. The whole point of the Empire is that they are more machine than man. They've lost their humanity. We've talked about this during Rogue One. They're more machine than man. So they're not supposed to have these human emotions. They're not supposed to yell, and when they yell, it breaks that thematic fold, and it doesn't feel like the Empire anymore.
Mhm.
What do you think about
Yeah,
that, Gandalf?
when people are like yelling, it's like you can tell there's some emotion there, but what is more intimidating is when someone is talking calmly to you, but they're also threatening you. Like,
But they
you
had
know, you,
but it's apparent
and
that they can back up their threat. If it's
yeah,
apparent they can back up their threat and they calmly do it, that's way worse than someone. I don't know. It's like a like written by a kindergartner. I don't know.
yeah.
All right, you can fill the air for a
Maybe.
second, Gand. I gotta go get a beer.
Okay. Yeah, there's this uh there's a way of intimidating people that the Empire has. It's, as Alex was saying, when you take the emotion out of it, the person on the receiving end is more intimidated because you're receiving this message that doesn't feel like it's coming from another human. It feels like it's coming from a machine or from a monster. And oftentimes people do refer to emotionless people as monsters. I mean, look at any kind of criminal. I probably shouldn't say names on here because it's going on YouTube. But you know, if you were to Google the worst criminals of all time, uh, thing that makes them scary, like actually look up Bittaker and Norris. This is not child friendly. If you look up, if you want to see a real monster, one of the great examples is Bittaker. I forgot his first name. But yeah, that guy and his partner were two monsters, and one of the most terrifying things that all these monsters have in common is their lack of emotion. Even when they're saying something that, sorry, owl, my bad. Yeah,
I see
so
you saw
owl,
it already.
yeah. Whoops. Do we need to delete anything?
There's no way to. It's being streamed.
All right. So owl. Uh, what's it saying? Oh yeah, yeah. So one of the common characteristics between or across monsters is their lack of humanity. So if you want to really intimidate somebody without screaming at them, you just say whatever it is you want to say, but you say it very calmly and without emotion. that that will do it, man. You're trying to scare somebody, just say, hey,
Yeah,
try that
and
again.
it's because when you
Sell your
show
kidneys. Right.
when someone shows that lack of empathy, they indicate that they are capable of treating, since they are acting inhuman, they are capable of treating you as if you're not a human.
Yeah.
Meaning they're capable of atrocities worthy of the knowledge of good and evil in the biblical sense.
Yeah.
But anyways, I
But
see I understand what you were saying there.
yeah. So like, just as an example, let's say somebody attacks you, like on the street, and one way or another you win. Do you really want to like shout at them, "You try that again, and I'll kill you," or just say, "Try that again"? Right? Like,
Well,
which
I
one
mean,
is going to actually scare them off?
that's a different situation, but like the whole
Yeah.
idea, and like let's take the original trilogy as a comparison. Does Grand Moff Tarkin scream at anyone?
No, he doesn't. He's just very cold and calculated, and
But he is directly responsible for the most deaths in Star Wars. Yes or no?
yes,
Yes.
that I know of.
Right. I mean, unless you want to count the stupid Force Awakens, but whatever. But he doesn't yell at anyone, right? He's very proper. He's orderly. He's super orderly. He's machinely orderly. He's taken the soul out of the world. Well, not he personally. That would be Palpatine. But the soul has been taken out of the world, and he's basking in it as an agent of that. And so that's part of it. And we see the way that these Inquisitors act. They just don't. It doesn't really follow. It seems like the one with the hat seems evil for evil's sake, like twirling his mustache, evil. And the White Inquisitor, or the Grand Inquisitor, he I don't know, I kind of liked him actually. I thought he was more in line with what we should have seen. But
Yeah,
then Riva had to come along and kill him later on, spoiler alert.
yeah. He
But right, I mean the
was,
Grand Inquisitor was doing what we were talking about. Don't you agree?
yeah, yeah. He was. So if you ever talk with police officers, one of the things that really bugs them is the bureaucratic. Well, and I guess this goes for military as well. Bureaucratic nature of everything. Like you can see a problem, but you're not allowed to do anything about it unless you get the proper approvals. And that's kind of the template that the Grand Inquisitor is following. He's like he knows there are bigger fish out there, but he's doing his job to the letter and not trying to go beyond that. So he's literally a cog in a machine, and he's cognizant of that fact. He's acting on it, and it's kind of scary in its own right. A person could uh, go down that path. They can aware that the world is bigger. There are bigger problems, uh, and they have the ability to solve those problems, and they have the resources, but they're doing their job exactly as they're told, and completely ignoring everything else. So, thus turning himself into a bit of a machine.
Right, exactly. Which is like a someone whose will is not their own, right? That's a machine.
Hmm.
And so we see like in the original trilogy all these stormtroopers who look machine like in uniform, they all look the same. And we see Darth Vader who's already like he's literally a machine, half machine. And they're against the rebels who are a ragtag group, a motley crew, right, of individuality. And that's what's missing from the tyranny of this. And it's because and the individuality is missing because the separation of the wisdom of the spiritual father that has been enacted by Sidious. Which, if I mention, do you think people will know what I'm talking about if I mention Sidious instead of the Emperor?
Uh, I don't know. I haven't watched much of your channel, so I don't know what your audience is familiar with when it comes to Star Wars. But
Well,
yeah,
now,
Sidious and Emperor are same person.
right. Anyways, so that's that. So I think that's the last thing we need to talk about is Leia getting captured and Obi-Wan's initial refusal. So Leia gets captured by, they're not even Imperial anything. And I don't even know
Just
how they got on the
mercenaries.
planet. I don't know how they get over there, but they're there. Like they run into Leia's private forest basically, and they grab her up, and
Not
then
without an epic chase.
epic. It's so epic. It's so unbelievable because she's 10. She's slow as hell. And these guys are trying to chase her and it's like, "Oh, well, he could have got her right there. He could have got her right
Yeah.
there. He could have got her right there." It's like, what? Why? And so she eventually gets captured, and then Senator Organa goes to Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan tells him, "I'm not the man I used to be. I'm not gonna go rescue Princess Leia." What do you think
I
about
thought part of
what do
that
you think
was
about that? What do you think about that, Gandalf?
I thought part of that was warranted. Except he kept talking like, "No, I'm not going to go rescue her," because he shouldn't. He's not like taking care of Leia was Organa's job. And actually, here's this is probably going to sound heartless or brutal, whatever, but it's like Organa knows that Kenobi has two jobs on Tatooine. One is training in the Force. Two is watching over Luke. So why would a close friend say, "Hey, I need to borrow you to go help, you know, go figure out who took my daughter and get her back," when you know that Obi-Wan is watching over the other child? It's like you wouldn't ask your friend to go off on a rescue mission when you know they're already on a mission. That's not something a good friend would do. And there's another side to this. Why would Organa have to go to Kenobi? Like, he is one of the most powerful people in the galaxy. Well, on the planet of Alderaan. Are you telling me that, or is Disney telling me that he doesn't have like a bodyguard or an assassin or somebody he can go to who he trusts implicitly on planet? Like, why would you need to call up your buddy on
Not even
Tatooine?
on planet, in
Right.
system, not even in
Yeah.
system, in like in government. Like what is this?
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find this. I'm trying to
Why would your
find
number one source be a hermit on Tatooine who has his own task? Like, why'd you want to pull your friend away from somebody from their mission when you know their job is to protect someone? Right? That's kind of a dumb idea, and it's also dumb that he wouldn't have somebody he could go to for things like this. That's pretty standard practice for rich people to have someone they can go to. They're a friend or someone who's on a payroll. Okay, look, I need this done.
Yeah, and
Here's,
I
you know,
mean,
here's
well,
a couple million
is
dollars. Go fix this problem for me.
the other thing is there appears to be no security on the Alderaan planet. Like these guys basically sneak into her backyard. It makes no
Yeah.
sense. And not only that, but I see what you're saying about Obi-Wan's mission, and and that is kind of true in a way, but it's so weird what people know in this show and what people don't, because you never know if a character knows what the audience knows. And so there's no chance for dramatic irony, because like Riva obviously knows a lot more than the the regular characters in the story, and we don't know that if she knows that Luke is on Tatooine, and so how is it possible for Obi-Wan to know it's safe to leave Luke on Tatooine? He doesn't, other than it's just the writers saying that it's fine because he needs to go meet Leia, which he's never
Yeah,
met before.
yeah,
By
like
the way,
briefly in Revenge of the Sith, but I wouldn't consider that meeting someone. Just
yeah,
being
no,
around for their birth.
and so it is. I mean, he is a senator as well, so I would agree with you there that it doesn't make much sense.
Yeah, like in rich people have ways of getting things done, and they're also very protective about their kids, which I mean anyone is, but rich people have the means to make sure that stuff like this doesn't happen. Like, here's an idea: put a tracking device inside her droid, right? Automatic GPS. You always know where your kid is.
But see, that's like too
You'd have a
smart,
private
too
guard.
smart for
Yeah,
this.
yeah. You'd have a private guard for daughter. Like, he doesn't have to be seen. He doesn't have like. It's probably better if she doesn't know he's there. He's there making sure nothing like this ever happens. That's just kind of how rich people operate. But apparently not in this universe.
I'm trying to see if there's any mention of how far Alderaan is. It does not actually say. But anyways, point is, yeah, I mean he has to go pretty far to Tatooine to find Obi-Wan to do all this to begin with, but at any rate, it seems very contrived. But here we are at the end of the episode with Princess Leia captured and Obi-Wan digging out his lightsabers so that he can go rescue Princess Leia for one last battle.
Yeah.
And we're going to encounter so many issues along the way. So that was
Yep.
episode 1.
Yep. That's episode one. And there are things that come up in future episodes where it's like that idea were to be applied to anything in episode one, this would be a much shorter series. The mind reading thing. I guess we'll get there, but there's going to be like callbacks.
Ah, yes, we'll get there.
Yeah.
You are now a true member of Get the Mic, because that's basically our catchphrase. We'll get there.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
It's because we're always saying we'll get there. Anyways,
We'll circle back to that.
we'll circle back. We'll get there eventually. Here we go. So that was episode 1. What do you give episode 1 out of, we'll say, what do you want to say? 5 wizard hats? 5 wizard hits. 5 wizard hits. There we go.
5 wizard hits. Uh, there were parts of it I liked, particularly the beginning where you see the flashbacks and such. I'd give it a 2. I mean, it's not the worst of them,
Two out of
but it ain't
5
great.
wizard hits.
Yeah.
Which is, that's not that many.
Oh.
So 2 out of 5. I think I would actually be a little more generous. I think I'm gonna give it 2.5 out of 5.
Oh, how generous of you.
Yes. I'll give it 2.5 out of 5 baby skeletons.
Give it 2.6 Wampa fruit out of 5 Wampa fruit.
All right, so let's go ahead and get started on episode 2. episode 2. So episode 2 is a blur to me. You're gonna have to fill me in,
Uh,
Gandalf. Is
so
that
the thing
episode
about
2?
this,
Oh, that is episode 2.
it is he finds her. I don't remember exactly how the God. I'd have to go watch it again. Like I said, Kenobi is just really bad high budget fan fiction.
Well, hold on.
Uh,
Let's get into the episode and why it's bad specifically. We always have to do that to show these Disney shills what's up.
I don't remember exactly how it starts. I know Obi-Wan makes it to whatever the planet is. It looks like Coruscant, but I think it's called something else, like Doll or Dell, something like that. And he somehow finds, or well, not somehow, for some reason, he just approaches somebody on the street and says, "Hey, I'm looking for this ship signature." It's like, why wouldn't you go to a help desk or something? Don't just walk up to somebody and ask them that question. What a dumb thing to do. If you're trying to stay under the radar, and don't just walk up to some random person and say, "Hey, I'm looking for this ship signature or drive signature or whatever it was."
Yeah, because he's
That's
on
just a
like
stupid
this
thing to do.
seedy underground planet, right?
Yeah, like he
He's
should
walking
anticipate
around.
like someone's gonna try to take advantage of him or give him
I
bad information
I
or
also want to mention there seems to be so few aliens. Like there's aliens that are in the background, but none of the informants are aliens. Like none of the people they go talk to are aliens.
yeah.
There's like no aliens. It's weird. It's Star Wars with no aliens. So he goes to this planet and they tell him like, "Oh, you're never gonna find that girl." And he runs into a street urchin who tells him there's a Jedi that helps people find things.
Yeah.
And so that's when you remember now, Gandalf.
Yeah. He
And so
runs
that's when
into
he goes to the
Rose Gardens.
underground tunnels where he finds a quote Jedi end quote. And
Yeah.
the Jedi is swindling a family out of their money, and Obi-Wan's not very happy about that. He confronts him with it. He's a fake Jedi. He's using like magnets and stuff to use the Force, and Obi-Wan convinces him to help, I guess. And so he tells him where Leia is, and so Obi-Wan goes to break Leia out. And I think towards the end of the episode, before they're able to leave the planet, he gets cornered by Reva and the Grand Inquisitor, and Reva says something really stupid that we'll get to in a second. And I think that's about right. Do you remember anything else in the episode?
Just the whole fight scene between him and the people who work in this spice lab. There's the scene with him and um, people who kidnapped Leia. And then there's that whole long series of parkour scenes where Leia is like going across rooftops and whatever reason
Oh yeah, and
Kenobi
then she
can't catch
almost
up with her.
dies.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then he can't even use the Force. Okay, that's something we
yeah,
definitely need to talk about.
yeah. Actually, can we? I'm gonna let you fill the air here. I gotta go grab some water.
All right, so
Didn't want to dry throat. B.
you don't want a dry throat. Go wet that whistle, boys. So, I guess we'll start at the beginning. Man, this episode is really forgettable. Uh, basically, it outlines. It is outlined by what we were saying there. Oh, that's right. That's right. After a while of running away, they reunite with the false Jedi, who gives them instructions to meet up with them at a rendezvous point on the planet so that they can get lifted out of there and taken back to Alderaan. It is when they are going to this location that they are interrupted by the Inquisitor and Riva, and I think they get away from them actually, because yeah, I'm somewhat certain that they do. But we'll get to that. I want to make sure Gandalf's here when we talk about that. But like I was saying, some of the early issues with the episode is it's just like all humans. There's like no aliens, and it's really weird because I mean, think about how big Chewie, who is an alien, was as a character in Star Wars. We don't really have anyone like that per se, and I think it could use something like that to rebuild the world of Star Wars. Let's say, because it's kind of been destroyed with the sequel trilogy. So, anyways, in this underground world, there are some issues too. I have with like the whole false Jedi thing and how he's like in this underground world. Like Gandalf and I were saying earlier, it takes time for people to forget things. And I mean, think about how long ago. Where were you during 9/11? I hope Gandalf can hear that on his way back.
Evil, evil. I'm back.
Because
I see.
where are you on
Wow.
9/11?
I jump in and you guys are discussing 9/11.
Here
So
we
it
are.
really is bad, huh?
Oh, Brock is here. Let me hold on. Let me add Brock in. So what I'm saying is 9/11. Where were you during 9/11 is longer than some of you in the audience may have been alive, because that distance in time from where we are now, the distance between the third movie, Revenge of the Sith, and A New Hope is about the same, about 20 years. And so people have not forgotten 9/11. Who has forgotten 9/11, let's say, who was alive, right? And it takes time and diligence to like bury these ideas. And we see that not only is the idea of the Jedi like alive and well in Tatooine, where people are willing to die to defend the identity of a Jedi, but even on this seedy planet where they have an underground Jedi who's trying to help people, quote unquote, for a fee. And I'm gonna add Brock in. Give me 1 second.
I do like the idea of that. I have not watched this for the viewers, but I do like the idea of a fake Jedi. I think you could do a lot of good things about it, and I can't wait to hear how they didn't do anything good with that.
They didn't do anything good with that. There was actually adding him into the screen. Cool.
How does that look?
It's pretty good. Pretty good.
How do I sound?
Sound fine.
There's no time to level out the difference between your microphones. We'll just continue as it is.
Well, I mean, I can jump off if I don't sound good. I just wanted to jump in here and be like, wow, I can't believe you guys spent an hour on one episode of Kenobi. And also, it sounds terrible.
Oh, you can hear it? I was gonna say.
Just watch our episode review talking stuff stream instead of watching the actual episode.
When I say it sounds terrible, I mean the episode sounds terrible.
Yeah,
Your description of the things that have happened is absurd to me.
No, I'm with. I got that. I'm just saying, like, watch this instead of the actual episodes, because we'll explain to you it's bad, and I guarantee this is going to be way more entertaining than.
We've also, I mean, we're getting there. We're on episode 2. We're trying to get through it. But I've only seen through episode 4, so I don't know about you, Gandalf. I think you've only
No,
seen episode 4 too.
I haven't seen 5 yet.
Which it just keeps getting worse, by the way. So 2.5 stars. I mean 2.5. What did I say? That was mine.
Wizard hits.
That was yours. 2.5 baby
Did you
skeletons
say?
out of 5 baby
Baby
skeletons.
skeletons.
Wait, you're giving
That's
this a 5 out of 10?
no.
Out,
Oh,
out of 5.
the
Oh,
first
gotcha.
episode. The first episode.
Oh, okay. You know, I had heard that the first episode showed at least a little bit of promise, and then after
That's
that, it was over.
Right. That's exactly what we were just talking about. It's like, yeah, there were some good setups that could be paid off, and then they were just. I mean, I had a ton of issues with it, but at least it was. It started with a foundation of Star Wars. Like it started with the clips that we saw in the beginning and things like that. So there was that helped it out.
Yeah.
But it just gets worse because it starts actually being anti mythological, let's say. And so episode 2, the false Jedi is where we were at, right? So this is one of the complaints that Gandalf and I were talking about, Brock, is that for the Jedi to be a long lost religion, the existence of them needs some time to dissipate, and or the ideas that they pronounce need to be heavily squelched. Like even if there's an underground market of those ideas, that's not good enough because no one in A New Hope or even Empire knows about the Force. It's only Luke. Like the only people that know about it are that. So it needs time. And so one of our complaints is that everyone seems to be aware of Jedi and the Force and like this false Jedi. Like so a boy walks up to Obi-Wan on the street and's like, "There's this Jedi that helps people." It's like, "What? What?"
Yeah. What? Yeah, people aren't supposed to know about the Jedi anymore. They're supposed to be all dead. And there's like,
Right.
Yeah,
And
that's the
these-
vibe in A New Hope, where it's sort of like this. Oh, that's not really a thing, and it's like, oh, it's real. Oh, Jedi. It's like bringing magic back into the world, right?
yes, and it's almost like I'm trying to think if there's a good parallel. It's like the ancient knowledge in Lord of the Rings. Like Gandalf has to go search for the scrolls on Isildur's Bane being the One Ring, right? In Minas Tirith. It's not just like common knowledge, but that's because it happened a long time ago. And so if you're only going to have 19 years between the movies, there needs to be nothing. There needs to be no mention of the Jedi, because if there is, then the ideas that they've been espousing ought to be able to live on, which kind of contradicts what I was saying earlier in the stream about how Palpatine kind of achieves almost an ultimate victory against the good by not only converting the spirit of the hero into the spirit into an adversarial spirit, but also exiling the wisdom of the spirit of the Father. Which is why Palpatine is such a good
that's the
villain.
That's the symbolic success in turning Vader into half of a robot, right? Because he's the spirit of the Father is being controlled by this this mode of being or this idea, so it's gone further than just getting rid of the Jedi side of the Force, but it's corrupted the application of the Force in the world.
Yes, and that's why Palpatine is such a good villain, is because he's able to do that, and it takes it a step beyond. And it's kind of interesting because art is kind of the only way that we can see what that step beyond is. But anyways, that diverts from the point. Point being here is that it undermines the Empire's victory for all these Jedi to have escaped, and it's like none of these were mentioned in the original trilogy. None of every Jedi was supposed to be hunted down. It's kind of how I feel. Let me relate it to our the other series that we frequently talk about, Dragon Ball. It's kind of how I would be annoyed if there were consistently more and more Saiyans that survived the destruction of Planet Vegeta, which there are in later seasons and sagas, which I don't like. So that goes to show you.
Yeah. There's this show, and I know I'm getting a little bit off. I promise I'll circle back. Uh,
We're Jin Saki here, circling back.
Glad you got that. There's this show called The 100. I love it. It does have its issues. And like probably the biggest complaint about that show, with the exception of the first episode and the last season, the last like 4 episodes. First episode and the last 3 or 4 episodes are not great, but the rest of it's. Anyways, there's a point where you find out how long it has been between the Earth being destroyed, essentially, or being unlivable, and people coming back from space to re-inhabit the Earth. That period of time is 97 years. However, somehow in that period of time, there has been a forgetting of the English language and the development of a new language and new cultures and new traditions. And it's like 97 years is not long enough for all of that to transpire on Earth. Like there's only a generation and a half or 2 generations. It takes longer than that for an entire language to die out and a new one take its place. So
right, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, even on an apocalyptic scale, if there are still people left over on planet, like it takes longer than 97 years for everyone to forget English.
Hold on though. Naturally, right? Naturally. Now, the whole idea of the empire and the whole idea the emperor was trying to achieve was the squelching of the wisdom of the father, right? The spiritual father.
Yeah.
And so we've seen this happen in a number of maybe even 10 years, because the communists of the world in the 20th century were able to destroy all like Christian texts, let's say, and completely eviscerate the existence of Christianity in their society in a matter of like 10 years. But it's because of authoritarianism, right? And so we could have seen the Empire do that. We could have seen the Empire crack down on all knowledge of Jedi, anything like that, which they kind of hint at. They're like, oh, they hunt anyone who's Force sensitive. And I'm like, what the Force sensitive? What are you talking about? But they say that.
That's what I would love to see. I'd like to see a time period where that's happening and people are being converted to the dark side preemptively so that they don't use the Force for the light side. You know, there's an interesting application to that. They could show, like, that would be much more interesting than what you've been talking about so far.
Oh no, I know. And the other thing is, like, the people need to be in such fear of the Empire that they're turning in their own neighbors and families and things like that. Like, that needs to be the level that they're going to, so that they can stamp out all talk and all mention of the Jedi to begin with. And if you do that over the course of 19 years, that's how you get A New Hope. And that's, again, the implication made in A New Hope, which makes the Empire so threatening and so monstrous, let's say, is that there's systematic eradication of ideas, the ideas that the Jedi espouse, let's say.
That's what's so feckless about the Order in the newer trilogy as well, right? Like, they don't seem to have a presence in the world. They're just, yeah, we got them again. They're the bad guys. We don't see them.
Here
do
they
anything.
are again. Yeah. What do you think about that, Gandalf?
So I was not aware of, excuse me, I was not aware of the communism, or, the communists stamping out Christianity. Didn't know about that. Just learned it. He said it.
But yeah, I mean, you can destroy. There's a way that people and authoritarians specifically can destroy the presence of ideas in society. But the way they go about it in this is just, it's not the way. And it doesn't make sense for there to be so many people that know and talk about Jedi constantly 10 years after the Empire's taken over. Like, what has Vader been doing for 10 years? If you even mention Jedi, like that's the thing. There should be a scene in the beginning, in the first episode of this, where Obi-Wan goes to Mos Eisley and someone mentions Jedi, and then the whole bar goes silent, and like the guy that asks about it gets shot.
Yeah. If this story minus Leia and Luke were taking place, let's say, 2 years after Revenge of the Sith, then this whole issue would be smoothed over.
It's true, but it should be much further along by now. And I know it seems like nitpicking, but it really is. It's really important to emphasize how the process of the eradication of ideas takes place, and how the stamping out and the strangulation of tyranny on the free expression of ideas can have its impact on the world. But I think we should get back to the episode. So,
all right, yep.
Right basically, so yes. Obi-Wan comes to the planet, he finds the false Jedi who leads him to Leia, and then later on he gives him the little thing that he's like, meet the rendezvous at this coordinate so that you can be lifted out of here. And then he runs into Reva and the Grand Inquisitor. Now we have to talk about that. So Reva, Brock, if you didn't know, is the third sister.
I'm sorry, the third sister.
She's the third sister. So anyways, she's the third sister. And she really hates Obi-Wan. She really wants to get at Obi-Wan. We can kind of deduce from the very first episode, which we said we'd get to that, Gandalf, and then we never did. Where the youngling,
now you've been inducted in to get the mic.
Now you are truly part of the show, exactly. The very first thing, the youngling flashback. We can infer that she was part of that. I mean, it's almost guaranteed that she is. I mean, it hasn't been revealed in the show, so this is a guess. But I think it's going to age like fine wine. I'm almost sure that she was one of the younglings in the very beginning sequence.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make any sense. Which, again, doesn't make any sense. Because Anakin went in there with a bunch of troopers. And, I don't know, this woman that they're with, she seems OP. She's taking out like 20 troopers. They're all like firing at her. She's dodging without even looking. I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah.
But anyways.
Well, yeah. So that scene, the thing that we didn't circle back to, it just looked like when that Jedi, whoever the teacher was, when she died, got these 5 younglings that all ran up kind of behind her, and said some stuff, but it just looked way too staged, which, I mean, obviously it was, but like, this is not how kids would behave in that kind of a situation.
I know, and instead of crying, they're like, oh, we have to get out of here. Don't you like when kids act like adults, Brock?
Love it. It's amazing characterization to just have kids be plot vehicles.
So anyways, that's Reva's origins as far as, well, that's our guess about Reva's origins. But Obi-Wan is stopped by Reva and the Grand Inquisitor. So Reva has set this trap for him, apparently, and she is using the Force to sense his emotions, and she tells him that Lord Vader will be pleased with his capture. And then she sensing his emotions, she says that Anakin is alive. Anakin Skywalker is alive. It's like, wait a minute. How does it have the writers not seen the movies? Like, Obi-Wan knows that Vader and Anakin are the same person.
Yeah.
And then secondly, how the fuck does Reva know that they're the same person?
Wait. Who? Wait. So
Yes, this
basically
Reva.
presenting the information that Anakin Skywalker is still alive. Who even knew who Anakin Skywalker was, except for people who have been stamped out? I mean,
Right.
what would
Because
that mean to somebody at this point?
I mean, Anakin Skywalker. No. Listen. This is significant. Anakin Skywalker is a hero of the Republic. Was known as a hero of the Republic, right?
Okay.
And like many people knew Anakin. But he apparently died on Mustafar, right? And came back as Darth Vader, let's say. And then from then on, he was known as Darth Vader. And since he had his attire already, and the only people that had seen him as like Anakin, like no suit, as Darth Vader, were those in the Jedi Temple who all were supposed to be killed. So they see him, and Obi-Wan
so the
sees
public
him.
generally thinks that Anakin was killed by Darth Vader, or killed and Darth Vader rose afterwards, and
Yes.
that's just it. He's just sort of like a war hero, like a sort of a figure.
Yes, to the
It's
people,
so
the people
strange,
of
the world building in this.
Of the Republic of the prequels. Yeah, that's really how Anakin has been seen.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's significant, right? When because Sidious tells him too in Empire, when the first time we see Sidious, Darth Vader and him talk, and he says that the children of Anakin Skywalker are alive. And it's like a big deal. And it's like no one has mentioned Anakin Skywalker's name before. But we do know that it's a significant name. We just don't know at that point who, if Darth Vader's Anakin, whatever. But in this, apparently Reva knows. And that's a big deal because no one is supposed to know. Everyone that did know has been killed, or is Obi-Wan and Yoda. Those are the only two people that know. And I guess Senator Organa, but he's gonna die in the first Star Wars movie, so.
Yeah. There was also a line in Return of the Jedi where Luke confronts Vader. He says something about Anakin. I know there's still good in you, or something like that. And Vader turns to him and says, "That name no longer means anything to me." So it's like people are not supposed to know who Anakin Skywalker, or they're not supposed to make that association between Vader and Anakin.
Well, and the difficulty here too, Brock, is that I don't want to get too into the original Star Wars mythos because I think it deserves its own episodes.
Right. No, I don't want to derail and go down that direction.
Well, because
it's just weird to me because it doesn't. It's incongruent, right? it's or incongruent, or however you'd say it, because we see very weak civilization and world building in Star Wars, generally speaking. So to have this situation where it sounds like you're just telling me about a drama that takes place in a very localized space that's not so spacey, and it almost sounds like they're writing it the way that they would write something like Game of Thrones, where it's like there's a bit of like, oh, well, this person knows about the secret of this person's origin, and then they go over and they talk to this person, and this person knows. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't
more like that
feel
political
like
intrigue.
Star
Yeah.
Wars. Yeah.
Well, and that goes back to what I was saying. Like the whole idea of Anakin Skywalker being dead, and why Obi-Wan tells Luke that Anakin Skywalker is dead, is because not only symbolically has Darth Vader consumed him, but the public at large also knows Anakin to be dead. No one knows that Anakin is alive. Except for Yeah, and I mean alive as in like actually manifesting his being within his body, right? Because it's all Darth Vader from you can even say before Mustafar onward.
Right.
It's all Darth
Specifically,
Vader.
it's that Anakin wouldn't do the things that Vader did. Right at the time that he's killing younglings, that's the actions of Vader, not Anakin, in spirit.
Yes. And it's like we were saying, or like I was explaining to Gandalf here in the first episode about how Darth Vader finally embodies the unholy trinity, and that's uh, the derivation, let's say, of his power. And it starts with that arrogance that Anakin has because he's the chosen one, let's say. The deceit that he thinks that he can get away with turning to the dark side and still remaining good, and the resent that he eventually adopts once he all his limbs are chopped off and he's burned and scarred, and the resentment that then he takes out against the world, and that's the unholy trinity that is Darth Vader. And because of that,
Right. I
we
understand what you're saying. There's a certain significant meaning for this character to know the identity of Darth Vader. Right. To know who Darth Vader is symbolically not just, it's not a passing thing. Right.
right. It's like knowing that Mariga and Radicon are the same. It's on that
Wait,
level of
really?
knowing.
I haven't gotten that far yet.
Spoilers ahead for Elden Ring.
It is similar to that, where it's sort of this higher level secret about the nature of the spirit of the father or the spirit of the mother, right? That's like a grand revelation that you can have about the nature of being.
Right,
So
which
it's,
is to say, because Anakin is the father of Luke, which is to say that the hero can become the tyrannical father, right? And that's what we see with Anakin, is that the heroic spirit becomes the tyrannical father,
which
which
I guess if you're
is
going to retcon the story and say that this person witnessed Anakin doing the deeds of Vader, it's like, okay, technically this person would know a thing like that, right? But to know it is more of a, if it's a mythological story, it means something bigger. It means that you've ascended to a certain spiritual level to be able to understand such an idea and not just witnessed a thing happen, right?
right. And well, the issue with it is too is that it's very implied that Anakin doesn't he doesn't leave, or I guess Darth Vader doesn't leave any survivors at the Jedi Temple. Like the only ones that are said to survive, because they send out a beacon later, like all Jedi come to this location and no one comes. That's in the third movie. And it it's pretty clear that there are so many stormtroopers, well, clone troopers at the time, that no one's able to escape. But we don't actually, Gandalf, do we see how they escape? Or they're just like, let's run, and then they run, and then it cuts away?
Yeah, that's pretty much what happens.
God, why? Why do these
Yeah.
writers suck? So, anyways, Riva somehow knows about Anakin's identity, which is really it, it's it's corrupt. I don't know how else to say it. It's a corrupt idea for her to know this. And so she taunts Kenobi with it and says, and is like, "Oh, well, yeah, Anakin Skywalker is still alive." And uh Obi-Wan, who well, Obi-Wan, he says Anakin, and he's really like, "Oh man, Anakin's alive." Like he's really shocked by this. And it should not be a surprise at all, because obviously Darth Vader has been around in the galaxy. People know about Darth Vader. The terror of Darth Vader is a real thing. And so he should know who Darth Vader is. And since he knows that Anakin is Darth Vader, this should not come as a surprise to him. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Wait,
I
are
was
you telling me
actually,
that the show plays it like it's a surprise to him?
yeah.
Yes. the show plays it like oh, Obi-Wan
He
just
didn't
found
know
out
who-
that Anakin's alive.
But
and he didn't know that Anakin is Darth Vader.
And that. Yes. And that's what I was saying at the beginning, the very beginning of the stream
so it's
was that
implying that in A New Hope he doesn't know.
yeah,
Oh
no,
my
it's not
God.
implying that because he finds out during this show.
Oh, okay.
But it is implying that without this show, he didn't know that Anakin was Darth Vader.
Oh my God, it's Rogue One all over again.
It's so bad. It's so bad. And oh
it's
man.
this. Rogue
It
One
even
is
shows
significantly
no,
better
listen,
than this show.
listen, Brock. It shows at the beginning when it's showing the flashbacks, it shows the scene where Yoda says that your apprentice Skywalker is gone, consumed by Palpatine's apprentice Darth Vader has he become, or whatever Yoda says. But he spells it out, and it's like, wait a minute, how are you going to reveal this later? It's in the same show.
The
It's in
show
the same
thinks that it's
show.
smart though. They're like, hey, we're gonna point to this, and it's gonna be like, ooh, foreshadowing.
Oh my gosh, it's bad. So yeah, he right here where he's like looking at the camera, he's like, Anakin, I can't believe Anakin's alive. It's like, oh my god, what is happening? So that happens. That whole thing with Reva.
I have a criticism of that. Just this is a film criticism that I have, but for the audience to be able to connect with the protag, there needs to be some sort of connection there. We know way more than Obi-Wan does, right? And right out of the gate, it sounds like the show is putting it in a situation where we're being surprised that he doesn't know something that we know, which is causing a disjunction, meaning that we're identifying less with him by the realizations that we're having during the show, right? That's bad.
It's the
You're not
opposite.
supposed to do that.
Right, it's the opposite of dramatic irony, where dramatic irony is like when the audience knows something that the characters don't know.
But then as they learn, you come to identify with the characters more. But that's not the case with Star Wars because so much groundwork has already been laid. So the show is actively distancing your empathy from the main character by creating these hurdles, like creating this disconnect here.
Right, and so it's really hard to understand like the emotional standpoint of Obi-Wan because in the first episode, the whole context you have is that he already knows that Anakin, because he's having like some thoughts and some inner monologues about what happened during the episode 3, right? And so he's obviously thinking about those events still. And at this point, we don't really know. I was surprised. I was like, "Oh my gosh, really? He doesn't know. He didn't know that Anakin is Darth Vader."
That they played episode 1, and you don't know that he doesn't know something that you think that you both know. Like, oh
he
my
would
God.
because he would know that. So I mean, I don't know. Was I wrong in assuming that, Gandalf? Did you not assume that as well?
More specific, what did I not assume?
That Obi-Wan knew that Anakin and Darth Vader were the same person.
Oh yeah, no,
because it's pretty explained.
Yeah.
In fact, doesn't
watch Revenge of the Sith?
I mean, with you being the resident prequel fan, like, if anyone is going to be an authority to say whether or not it would make sense for him to know, it would be you. Like, do you get the impression from the prequels that he should know?
Oh, yeah. He sees it on the hologram. Then he goes and confronts him, and he keeps calling him Anakin on Mustafar. He doesn't call him Darth Vader.
Right, but doesn't Yoda
hang on to that idea?
Does Yoda call him Darth? I think doesn't Yoda say like, "I'll handle the Emperor, you go handle the apprentice Darth Vader," or whatever?
I don't remember.
Anyways, it's really spelled out in episode 3. There's no reason why we shouldn't expect Obi-Wan to know that, but he doesn't know that. And so that's episode 2. That's where episode 2 ends.
So here's something for you.
Wow.
There was an interview with Joby Harold, the head writer on Kenobi, where
I'll show
he
you a Kenobi.
outrights. But
Nothing. Go on.
so in the interview, he says something like, "Okay, what does Kenobi know? Does he, or is Kenobi aware that Vader is Anakin? What can we do with that? You're the head writer for Kenobi. Shouldn't you be at least a little bit versed in in Star Wars lore? Come on now."
Was
See
he?
if I can find. No,
Like,
apparently not. He's.
I was gonna say, yeah. Where's this? Where's the punchline here? Because sounds like he basically admitted that to not knowing canon.
That's exactly what happened.
Oh my
It's just like,
gosh.
Jesus Christ. How are they hiring these people?
So yeah, I mean that's episode 2. It's already getting bad. So let's get to our reviews. I'm gonna give this one 2 skeleton babies out of 5 skeleton babies.
I'll give it a 1.
1 wizard hit out of 5 wizard hits.
Yeah.
Brock didn't see it. What do you think about it?
I'm going to split the difference. I'm going to give it a 1.5. Franchise is ruined out of 5.
Great. So now we can get into what's even worse. The reason I'm rating these so high is because I can't start rating things out of 0. I need somewhere where I can start because the next one is going to be even worse. So here we go. Very first thing. You are you seeing this, Brock? You seeing this? These clips are going to blow your mind because it's
Let me
really
get these
bad.
pulled up.
So the first thing we see in episode 3 is that Obi-Wan and Leia have gone to the rendezvous point. This is not even to mention that Leia and Obi-Wan's relationship is totally messed up for A New Hope at this point.
Yeah.
Leia only knows him as Ben Kenobi, first of all. No. She doesn't know him as Ben Kenobi. She says, "Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope," right?
Yeah.
She doesn't even know him as Ben Kenobi because guess who tells her about Ben Kenobi? It's her father, who is the senator on Alderaan, who knows him as Obi-Wan Kenobi, not Ben Kenobi, because he's one of the few people who was able to survive Order 66, right? That's significant. So, it ruins their relationship because now she knows him as Ben Kenobi. Anyways, that's a whole nother point. The first thing we see is Obi-Wan and Leia are now in this field where they were told to rendezvous with basically their ride out off planet. And so Obi-Wan says that this was a trap. He never should have trusted the false Jedi. And Leia's like, maybe we should just wait here for a while. And Obi-Wan's like, no, that's stupid. We shouldn't wait here. And Leia's like, but if we just wait here, I'm sure someone will come. Save that idea for later. Because then they find this, I don't know, like a truck driver, a trucker. And they're like, hey, trucker, give us a ride out of here because we need a ride back out of here. He's like, I'm Empire friendly. I hope you guys like the Empire. And they're like, sure, we like the Empires. They get on, and there's like this awkward scene with some troopers where nothing really of consequence happens, but awkwardness ensues, so I guess it's funny. Then they get off, and they're pretty much captured because their trucker, being an actual Empire loyalist, turns them in, which we should see more Empire loyalists within the Empire, by the way, now that they're off Tatooine. So they basically are about to get captured when one of the officers seemingly betrays her own kind and kills all the troopers around her. And she tells them, I'm here to save you.
Convenient.
How convenient. I'm here to save you. I met you at the rendezvous. I was at the rendezvous point, but you guys weren't there. And so it proves Leia was right the whole time. What do you know?
Yeah.
And so then she takes them to a safe house where they're eventually followed by Reva, and Obi-Wan goes out to fight Vader while Leia tries to run away with the Imperial traitor. The Imperial traitor helps Obi-Wan and makes him flames, which apparently flames stop Vader now. So he doesn't go that way, and that's kind of where the episode ends. Did I miss anything, Gandalf? I guess the whole Vader entrance. So Vader gets there while they're trying to ride back. Yeah, while they're trying to ride back to civilization from this deserted rendezvous point, Vader has arrived on the planet to also hunt Obi-Wan. That's like the only thing I missed.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we forgot to say that the Grand Inquisitor is killed by Reva. So that happens.
Yeah. End of last episode.
Yeah, so the guy that we thought was actually pretty decent as a villain, who was like going around without using his lightsaber and just like generally threatening the populace with a show of force that's implied but not in, let's say, heavy-handed. And at the end there, where Reva and he have Obi-Wan cornered, she kills the Grand Inquisitor, and I think that's what allows Obi-Wan to get away. So in this episode, in episode 3, Vader tells her, like, hey, you know, you can be Grand Inquisitor if you help me capture Obi-Wan. And so that's kind of where she's going at here with it. And so she discovers them at the safe house and drives Obi-Wan out to fight Vader, while Leia runs away, only to find Reva at the end of the episode. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
I feel like I'm picking up on a bit of a trend here. Is this is about Obi-Wan and not Reva, right?
The show is called Obi-Wan.
Okay.
Did you see the thumbnail?
But Reva is like this badass who is just killing and kicking everyone's ass, and it's moving the plot along, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much
basically. But also,
like E-Man,
we also see this the Imperial traitor, who I don't remember her name. I'm just gonna call her the Imperial traitor from now on. She's the one that kills her own troops there at the outpost and saves Obi-Wan at the nick of time. She has some Mary Sue qualities for sure, because her ability to like shoot this canister of fuel ignites the flames so that Darth Vader can't continue to pursue Obi-Wan, because Obi-Wan and Vader fight. And as we've seen, Obi-Wan is a pathetic slime and cannot even use the Force, so he gets crushed by Vader instantly, which nullifies the whole New Hope dialogue that they have when he says, "When I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master." That line doesn't make any sense now because they've met since then, and Vader crushed him.
Vader won. Yeah.
So stupid. I gotta let someone else take over. I'm getting too heated here.
To that point, we've seen Disney's capacity for lightsaber battles, and
you mean
by
garbage?
throwing in, yeah, they're terrible. They're like not good. So by throwing in this scene of Vader winning against Obi-Wan, kind of implying, like, if they want to maintain canon, they're implying that there's going to be another fight scene between Obi-Wan and Vader. However, Obi-Wan, in his current state of affairs, is not going to be able to get as good as he was in Revenge of the Sith. So, just what I'm seeing coming is another lightsaber battle between him and Vader. Except it's not going to. Yeah, it's not
Prediction
gonna.
alert.
Yeah, like they have to do it again. Yeah, they have to do it again. But since we already know that Disney sucks at making lightsaber battles, it's a safe prediction to say that that upcoming duel will not live up to the one we saw in Revenge of the Sith. Like, that was an epic sequence.
It's never
Yeah,
happening again, man. Disney doesn't
but
know what to do with
not happening.
lightsabers.
There was supposed to be their last interaction before A New Hope. This whole thing should have been about Obi-Wan's inner struggles, and you missed this, Brock, because we were talking about the hermetic tradition that the Jedi undertake after being deposed as the Jedi Order, and how it's important that the spiritual father and those who represent the spirit of the father are those who adopt a hermetic order once they've been, let's say, exiled.
Yeah, it becomes part of the archetypal Jedi way to adopt the hermetic way, right?
Right. And
before A New Hope, that's not the case, right? There's like a council of people, but beyond this fall, right? Because there's a fall that happens whenever the spirit of the father gets corrupted, and then it's sort of like it's necessary for the people who carry on the light side of the force for them to do the hermetic process, because that's the only way. They have to like seek within themselves to find it again, right?
I mean, think about too, like how both Crane Hermit and Roshi were part of Mutaito's school, right? You can think of that as like an old established order that was disintegrated, and then each went into their own hermetic tradition, and that's kind of the idea here. And what I was explaining to Gandalf is that that's necessary because when tyranny is ruling or reigning, then the knowledge and the wisdom of the spiritual father and the ancestral spirit has to be preserved. And so how can it be preserved but to shut itself away from the tyranny at hand?
Exactly. Well, it's also it's kind of like a weird fish out of water sounding story where we have someone who's supposed to be on this hermetic path, but then it's like, oh, the escapades of. It's like, what if we got a prequel story about Master Roshi where he met random like side characters who helped him along the way, like the Ino Shikacho story or whatever, where you end up with
what if
this thing that doesn't feel in character, right?
But what if it was worse? What if he what if he met Corrin, and Corrin was the opposite of what Corrin is? Like Corrin was like, well, you did good climbing the tower, no use in doing anything else, or something like that. I don't even know.
This really feels like a story of like Mutaito and his like whenever he went on his pilgrimage, like running into Piccolo along the way while he's doing all of his stuff to learn how to do the mafupa. It's
yeah,
none of that matters. Like that.
It really doesn't. And the fact that Leia meets him though is it's stupid. Because now that Obi-Wan I mean, Leia's like right near him when Reva's calling out that Anakin Skywalker's still alive, and that Anakin Skywalker is Darth Vader. And so when Darth Vader captures her in A New Hope, it suddenly doesn't make any sense. And so let's talk about
real close at the time.
What's that?
I think she had already run away.
Oh, had she already run away?
Yeah, I'd have to go watch it again.
So I mean, there's not even much to talk about in this episode because there's a lot of wasted time with the whole trucker thing and them almost being discovered while they're driving back. and like Obi-Wan calls her Leia in front of the stormtroopers, and he's like, "Oh, that
Yeah.
was her deceased mother's name," and it's like, I don't even know what to say because it's just a waste of time. Nothing happens, and so the real significant part of this episode is at the end where Darth Vader and Obi-Wan fight, and Darth Vader actually uses the Force to make to burn Obi-Wan like he was burned. Remember those burn scars you saw on Obi-Wan in episode 4, Brock? Remember them?
It's like poetry.
So anyways, so Darth Vader summons this fire, and then like he uses the Force to make Obi-Wan get burned in the fire. And there's a really stupid line where Obi-Wan asks Darth Vader, "What have you become?" And Darth Vader says, "I am what you made me to be."
Yeah, great. And
It's really stupid. It sounds retarded, even from Darth. I mean, most stuff is passable through Darth Vader's like voice modulator. Anything, almost anything can sound cool, but like that is just, it's stupid.
yeah.
I am what you
It
made
was
me to be, and it's like what? It's so cliche.
this thing I want to touch on back in the trucker scene, for lack of a better word. So we're told, well, we know that Obi-Wan Kenobi was one of the greatest Jedi. He was at least on the council, makes him pretty good. So he comes up with this cover story, like, we're farmers from Tall or something. My name is, or his name was, and then your name is Luma, and I'm your uncle, or whatever the cover story was. So have that story established, then the very first time they have to use it, fucks it up. It's like,
He messes it up, not Leia,
yeah,
by
he
the
messed it
way.
up.
Leia is
Like, the
perfect
kid
with
gets
her.
it right. Yeah, the kid
The
gets it right.
the
The
10-year-old.
Jedi messes it up. So
And
yeah,
speaking of
it's just
Jedi,
like,
what the hell kind of Jedi is he? He doesn't even know how to use the Force anymore. It's just disgraceful. And the whole meeting at the end is
there
stupid,
was,
and he gets saved by the Imperial traitor who like shoots this box and makes the flames more. And so since the flames are more, Darth Vader can't do anything about them, and so they escape.
there was also another scene prior to the whole trucker, or right after the trucker scene, where they're trying to get through the gate. It's like that gate is clearly made to prevent vehicles from going down the road. But if you just pause it, you can see there's a sidewalk that goes around the gate, and he's standing on that sidewalk. He's trying to figure out how to turn off the lasers.
Well, they turn off. No, they
was,
turn off the laser before they get through, Brock. They do not walk around.
Yeah. Don't walk around it. I guess it would have made sense if his plan was to steal the truck and like drive that thing through, but he doesn't. The plan was to just keep walking.
Just keep walking. All you need, just walk forward.
Every time I see this clip of the little girl, who I'm assuming is Leia, I get a little bit more annoyed.
Which clip?
Just like the smug little kid face.
Oh yeah. It compounds. So even the next episode is going to be even worse.
Without even watching it, I'm already irritated with the kid actor.
And it's not a fault of her. I mean, she's written as
no, kid actors are just they're just not great. It's the thing, but also like whenever you create someone as iconic as Leia, and then you give a kid actor the responsibility to
that
portray
face
Leia,
right there, I saw it.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
It is definitely frustrating. So
I feel
that
confident
brings
in my
us.
1.5 on this episode.
Oh, I guess yeah. That brings us to our episode 3, our ratings. So I'm gonna give this one 1.5 baby skeletons out of 5.
Yeah, 1.5.
Yeah, I'll give it a
1.5
1.
ruined franchises out of 5.
Give it a 1.
1 wizard head out of 5.
Can I give it less than that?
Honestly,
Dude,
it's dumb, and it doesn't do a service to characters who should be respected much more. But it could be much more unholy, so I have to leave a little wiggle room here.
well,
Right. That's when it
could be
reaches
worse,
below average. Yeah, it
but-
could be worse.
what this episode does to Obi-Wan is just it's
Oh,
just
please, let's hear it,
disgraceful. It's
Gandalf.
like-
Go into that.
Okay.
I want to hear what you have to
Okay.
say.
all right, so at the end of Revenge of the Sith, Obi-Wan has 2 jobs. One, and I know I mentioned this earlier. Job number 1 is watch over Luke. Job number 2 is train in the Force. So you see him run away from Vader like the first 2 times, and then you see him fight Vader and get his ass handed to him. It's like, what have you been doing for the past 10 years? Aren't you supposed to be good at this? Or at least not incompetent. So there's that, but there's also Obi-Wan has committed 2 grave sins in this series so far when it comes to protecting kids. First off, he gave up his duty of protecting Luke or watching over Luke. And second of all, he gave up his duty to protect Leia. He literally left Leia with this Imperial fighter who he doesn't know her. Guess he doesn't have any reason to distrust her, but he doesn't really have. It'd be like leaving your kid with somebody who has helped you, but you don't know who they are. This is Princess Leia, the sister of the person you have sworn to protect. So he's pretty much, well, not pretty much, he just leaves her with this lady who he knows is a spy, so already deceitful in nature. Even if, yeah, she's working with the good guys, but it's be like leaving your kid with someone you know is not a great person to start with. And it's like that's not what Obi-Wan would have done. It's not. It's a breach of character, and it's disgusting. So, and here's the other thing. He forsakes that duty in order to go fight Vader. And then when the opportunity comes to fight Vader, he runs away. And, geez, it gets worse the more you think about it. It's like he should know that he is not equipped to go fight Darth Vader. Like he can barely lift an object with the Force. Like he's not competent in his lightsaber skills. He's not competent in his ability to use the Force.
But why?
And
I don't
now
understand.
you think you're.
I don't understand
and it's
why
like,
the writers did that.
1.25.
give it a 1.
Yeah.
You're
Well,
giving
because
me a good argument
I mean,
here.
think about this. Think about this, Brock. Does Roshi suddenly lose his power from adopting the Hermetic tradition?
This is exactly what I was gonna say. It's sort of like, imagine if Roshi couldn't put out Fire Mountain, right? Like, it's so lame to have the idea of a rematch between Obi-Wan and Anakin happen, and then it's like he just like has to be saved, and it's not anything of real import. I don't know. That feels really sad to me because there is a nobility to who Obi-Wan is, especially at the beginning of A New Hope. Like, he's a very important character. You should respect Obi-Wan. And there's this treatment of him that I'm seeing without even watching it, that he isn't embodying the spirit of the Father in the way that he's supposed to.
Right, and I mean, you weren't even here, Brock, when we were talking about burying lightsabers out in the desert. So in A New Hope, when Obi-Wan gives...
Oh, you haven't even seen that. You haven't watched the Rise of Skywalker, right?
Oh, yeah, and I was talking about that as too.
Yeah.
I was like, why is Disney so obsessed with burying their lightsabers out in the desert? And I've not seen Rise of Skywalker, it's true.
Yeah.
Ugh, we're disgusted. And so that is pretty much episode 3. It's disgusting, and it's really bad, and I don't like it very much. Oh, I gotta charge my headphones. 1 second.
Yeah, I guess the biggest thing about that episode that bothers me is how unfatherly he is being.
Mm-hmm.
And you know,
definitely
what they've done to that character. Like you know that you suck with a lightsaber because you haven't trained with a lightsaber in 10 years. You know you're rusty with the Force because you apparently hasn't been training in the Force.
I really don't like the idea that he's gotten weaker over time. You know, that entire concept that because it's very, very similar to what happens with, you know, I always call back to Dragon Ball, but Dragon Ball is a very holy version of this. And so at the beginning of Dragon Ball, they have to call on Roshi, who is the hermit, who hasn't been, he's sort of been shirking his duties. And so he comes out of his isolation to put out the fires on the mountain at Mount Frypan, and he's so powerful that he destroys the entire mountain. And so it's like he still has the strength, but he doesn't have sort of the articulation. You know, he's not as skilled, but he still has the power. And they take that away from Obi-Wan here from the look of it because he doesn't have anything. You know, it's like he sucks. Like he's just been lazy and he hasn't done what he needs to do to maintain himself. So instead of being someone who's like, okay, well, maybe he hasn't been engaged in a war like Vader has, but he still has the strength. It's like, no, I'm just watching clips of him falling over.
Right, and the thing is too is his mission. Yoda gave him a mission. Like George basically told them, like, here's what you make an Obi-Wan Kenobi series about. You make it about him reconnecting with Qui-Gon, who is the spirit of the Father, who passed, who died during Obi-Wan's, let's say, his hero's journey. And so he is able to then reconvene with not Obi-Wan, with Qui-Gon, and we barely see that. We see 10. This is supposed to be 10 years after Revenge of the Sith, and he's made no progress, 0 progress on communing with.
Oh, it's so
Qui-Gon.
bad. Like really to drive the nail home, Al, if you look at the copy of the Hero with 1,000 Faces that I gave you, on the back, I'm fairly certain there's a quote from George Lucas, because he respects the spirit of the Father so much, and he respects Joseph Campbell so much, that he knows, right? He knows what would be a good treatment for this character. And the fact that this writer doesn't even know enough about the canon to respect that, it's annoying me the more I think about what's happening in this series.
As Gandalf said, wise words. The more you think about it, the worse it gets.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And so I think that's where
It's-
we'll leave episode 3. We need to get to episode 4 so we can wrap up this stream.
It's exactly the opposite of the original series and the prequels. Like with those, the more you think about it, the better it gets. This one, the more you shouldn't think about it because it's going to get worse.
It's
Okay,
pretty.
so I'm going to slightly disagree with you because the more I've thought about the prequels, the more I've been like, wait, what the hell? But look, I like 3. Okay, Revenge of the Sith.
That's how you get us. That's how you start us off. Gandalf is Revenge of the Sith. It's poisonous.
But you're not going to convince me that the first 2 are good. I'm sorry. There's so much nonsense. But I really do like a lot of the spirit behind what George Lucas was doing, and like I was saying, like George Lucas, he has an intuition. Like he respects the more mythological framework, and he really wove that into what he was writing, especially in the original series, right? And maybe he lost the thread sometimes. The muse isn't always with you, but this is not that, right? This is different. It's different from saying that, like, oh, well, George Lucas wrote some kind of creepy stuff between Natalie Portman and Hayden Christensen. Like, this is more along the lines of, like, there's no intuition to follow. The muse never showed up for this show.
It's just corrupt. There's no value in any of the ideas presented. And the honor and respect owed towards the spirit of the father is completely denigrated constantly. Brock, you haven't seen it, but as you can see by that face by Leia, she's constantly telling Obi-Wan what to do, and she's always right. And that scene when they're in the field waiting for that, where Leia's like, maybe we should just wait. She was vindicated later when the Imperial traitor was like, we were looking for you in the field. It's like, oh, well, I guess Leia's just always right. But it gets even worse.
Wait,
Brock,
it gets
worse than this episode. It gets worse.
Wait, there's more.
But wait, there's more. So, in episode 4, we see Reva, who has captured Leia. She is now interrogating her, and she's trying to find out where Obi-Wan and the path is, as if a 10-year-old knows. By the way, this whole path subplot, do you want to go ahead and... I'll let you explain it, Gandalf. The path subplot. Go ahead.
It's pretty much the Underground Railroad for Jedi.
Man, that was a succinct summary. Good job.
Thank you.
There's nothing more that needs to be said. You pretty much did it.
Wait, that's the path?
That's the path.
Okay, so there's a path for a Jedi. Okay, so there's... I think the whole idea in A New Hope was that there wasn't a path, and that Luke kind of had to make it again, right?
Well, that was the whole point, right? Nope, not the point. The point is Luke was good with his pew-pew guns.
Yeah, the idea
of... I guess all I have to say to that is...
What are you drinking, Brock? Because Gandalf hasn't partaken in the stream tradition of drinking a beer while you stream.
Why not?
Because I drink water.
Boo. This is
Get the mic.
It's called Skipping Rock, New England. I don't think you've had this one.
I am having a Wee Dead Mon from the Vale. It is a triple.
That's better than mine.
Triple IPA. And there's nothing.
Oh, mine's only 6.6.
Oh no, mine is 11. I swear I can feel it with every sip.
Yeah, it's the boozy one, right?
It is. It's one of them. Well, I got tacos yesterday. Anyway, we need to stop. No, we cannot do that. So the path, the Nimbus Cloud is proclaimed to be the Underground Railroad, and the path of a slave to freedom is the path of the hero as well. It's the equivalency made there. What do you
I'm
think about that,
so
Brock?
fucking triggered right now because, like, I already called out first of all that I'm starting to see a little bit of a pattern with our really cool character that doesn't necessarily fit within the lore, who's more badass than it sounds like she should be, and knows things that she's not supposed to know. And it's like she stands outside of the lore and she's cooler than the lore itself. And then at the same time, Obi-Wan is like a bumbling idiot who hasn't been able to retain his power in his exile and is sort of like a washed up old Jedi who has to come back and at least do one good thing, and his one good thing is to basically carry Leia along with him because she's more important than he is. I'm seeing this pattern over and over in the story already, and I haven't even watched the damn thing. So to tell me that the path is like the Underground Railroad is like, come on, man. Seriously?
Well, it gets even worse because, like you were saying, the idea. Wait. So, the idea that Riva like doesn't exist in the lore and is just more powerful than she should be. That's all true. But it makes it even worse that her modus operandi from the idea that she is one of the younglings at the beginning is that the whole point of this is that she's vengeful at the nakedness of the blindness of the father, or let's
Right.
say the nakedness of the father, right? She
She's
is
looked at the nakedness of the father and wants to tell people about it.
and wants to yeah, exactly, and wants to weaponize it, right? And so she basically like tells Obi-Wan like, you failed, you in the Jedi Order, you failed, and you're the reason why this is all happening and all this. And it's almost it's a very unholy spirit that she's adopting, but one that
It's definitely an unholy spirit, you know. To
but
say
one it doesn't even though make sense because the writing, like the unholy spirit that she's presenting in the face of the hierarchical adversarial
okay,
spirit that is Darth Vader, like at the end of the episode. So we haven't even gotten to that yet. We should
I'm gonna make a prediction before we get any further. Before you tell me about this episode, I think that her perspective is that it's the fault of the Jedi that Anakin turned out like Darth Vader, right? And it's going to be sort of a thing that's like she stands above the Jedi and the Sith and says that like the oppressive nature of the Jedi and the lack of respect towards Anakin, not necessarily that she knows all of this, but generally that her perspective is that the fault lies at the feet of the Jedi ultimately for Anakin having turned into Darth Vader.
we don't know yet. But that is a good guess. We have you on recording at this point.
I
So,
said it. I could be wrong, but
no.
it
I mean,
seems
we
like
haven't
that's where
watched
they're going
episode
with it.
5. I mean, it could. Gandalf, do you think that sounds plausible?
It does. Yeah.
Sounds very plausible because I imagine a redemption arc is coming for her. Now, like I said, I've only seen episodes 1 through 4. But in this episode, they are trying to capture Leia from this like stronghold. Apparently it's like a Vader.
So I just saw the clip of the kid under the coat. It just killed me.
So they're trying to rescue Leia from this like Vader stronghold. Are they on Mustafar?
No, I think it's one of the moons.
So they're on some moon and they're trying to rescue Leia from this like very high level security. And the Imperial trader goes in and she
Wait. I'm going to stop you there real quick. It's not high security. In fact, there's a line where they're planning how to get Leia out. It's Imperial lady or the trader lady and Obi-Wan, and some guy. I don't know who the Ice Cube's son, I guess. He looks like Ice Cube. I don't know if
Ice
his real
Cube's
name
in
is.
this?
I forgot about Ice Cube's son. Sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
So it's like those three. There might have been one other person in the room, but anyway, they're planning the the heist. And Obi-Wan says something like, uh, "Is there going to be security there?" And Ice Cube says, "No, we don't think so." And he says, "Well, why not?" And then Imperial Lady says, "Because nobody would be stupid enough to attack that base." It's like,
Oh yeah,
what the
that's
fuck?
the reasoning. No.
That's
No. It's even worse than that. It's not that there's no security. It's that there's no shields at all, so they can just
yeah,
like fly through.
yeah. It's literally what happened. So that conversation in and of itself is a contradiction. Because if there is no, if it is an actual base of operations, it would have security. If there is no security, why haven't we
Regardless
attacked
of
it
how
before?
quote unquote stupid it would be to attack it. That
Yeah, it's like,
that
why haven't you done
literally
it
it's
before?
the oh, that makes no sense. So anyways, they have to
Anyways,
rescue Leia from this place, and so the Imperial trader has to go in first, which first of all, her cover hasn't been blown somehow, even though she's already been discovered to have let Obi-Wan and Leia go under her command. And I mean, she killed her own dudes. So that's another thing. So apparently her clearance isn't revoked. She's able to get in using the old, like, I don't know. This is maybe a trope you might recognize, Brock, recently. But like the strong woman character telling, or let's say bluffing her way through a situation, like, "Oh, I'm in charge of you. Do this, this, and this, or else you'll hear from me."
Nope, never heard of it before. That's that sounds like a new original idea from the writer of this series to flesh out a very interesting and unique character.
And so she uses this to get in, and she lets Kenobi in. Kenobi sneaks in and rescues Leia, who's being tortured basically by Reva, to reveal the location of the path and Obi-Wan Kenobi, who she knows Kenobi is Ben, which, first of all, as we've said, goes against canon, but it doesn't even make sense in the universe of the show because she doesn't really know him as Obi-Wan. Then, second of all, she doesn't even know anything about the path. So they're interrogating her for no
yeah,
reason. They're about to torture her. And Obi-Wan comes through and rescues her as the Imperial traitor is discovered. The Imperial traitor who seems really OP because she's able to take out another Imperial officer who questions her. She's able to like incapacitate him while she is probably 10 meters away from the other Imperial officers at the station.
yeah,
Then, after they rescue Leia, they sneak out by Obi-Wan using a coat and wrapping it around Leia, and they walk out.
yep.
And so then Reva
Uh,
chases after them, and they fly away. And I mean, I don't. Did you even see her put a tracking device on the thing? Because I didn't see that. She just says it later on.
yeah, no, I didn't see it. I'd have to rewatch it again, but I don't really want to.
So,
It's
So
um,
depressing to
they
watch.
escape. So basically, Obi-Wan and Leia escape, but Reva puts a tracking device on their vessel, and when Vader comes through and is very pissed off and is force choking Reva, he's like, "You failed me. You didn't deliver Kenobi. Fuck you. I'm gonna kill you." But of course, it's Reva, so she can't die yet. And she's like, "Oh, well, I put a tracking device on their ship, so I actually outsmarted them, you see." And then he's like, well, I guess I underestimated you, and lets her live.
Yeah.
Which is horrid. Oh, it's so stupid.
He's like,
there's a series of events here that are just so one brain cell
conceived.
that I can't even mention how dumb they are.
I can't help but feel that there's some strange inversion happening with Riva, where I feel like the audience is supposed to like her and identify with her, but at the same time, she is this character who has this dubious, I say dubious, like a morally gray position, right? Where she knows things other people aren't supposed to. Skill and intelligence, right? But I don't like the idea of painting this character as someone who the audience is supposed to root for, given that she's the person who's hounding Kenobi and is acting in service of the corruption of the spirit of the Father, right?
She also is willing to torture children.
Oh,
So
that's no big deal.
that's nothing. It's fine. But I mean, yeah, there
Fuck them kids.
is something to say with the way that Riva is presented. It's like it's clear the show wants you to think she's badass. But at the same time, she's not. She's really cringe. I don't
Yeah, the
know.
show's trying too hard with it, right?
What do you think, Gandalf? Let's hear your thoughts on Riva's torture of Princess Leia.
well, I think the whole idea behind that was flawed from the get-go. Because she kidnapped Leia. So, like, the whole premise of this show is she kidnaps Leia so that Obi-Wan will come looking for Leia, so that he gets Kenobi, and then Riva gets promotion, Inquisitor. Then, once she gets Leia in front of her, she, for whatever reason, believes that Leia has some information about the operations of the Path, and where their base is, and their whole operation. So that's why she's torturing her. She wants that information. But it's like, you should know that Leia doesn't have that information because you're the one who, like, you're the one who kidnapped her, and you know that she saw some smuggling operation, but you also know how much of that smuggling operation Leia's aware of. So the premise of, or the question of how much does Leia know about this operation is already answered. Like, she has all the information she needs, or that she can expect to get from Leia. So the idea of torturing her is just, it's a moot point. Like, they put that in probably just to show that Riva is not bothered by the idea of torturing kids.
That she's the most evil ever.
Yeah, spelled with an A. And
yeah, exactly.
So,
EVAR.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily just that, but like that it's okay. Like, she's cool still.
Yeah. There was that scene
she tortures 10-year-olds, but she's still cool. She's still a badass. And so,
yeah.
the next thing, I don't even know what to say about them sneaking out with Obi-Wan just covering her
The
in a
trench
coat.
coat thing. Yeah.
It's so dumb.
It's
I don't even know
goofy.
what to say to it.
It's pretty dumb. I mean, it's goofy for sure. Is there like slapstick music playing in this scene?
No, it's
Like
No,
all like
classic
super
goofy
serious.
music?
there is.
Does it play this seriously? Like it has to play that sort of like whimsical music here, right?
No, it
No.
plays like serious music, like like suspenseful music, like they're about to be suspected. It's like I can see them. If anyone looks at them, they can see. Like she even
Something is
peeks
not right
out.
here.
She even
Yeah.
peeks out of the coat. Right there. Like what is happening? So, yeah, they play really suspenseful music when they're trying to escape. And it doesn't sell well. And none of it really works.
Yeah.
So, for episode 4, what are we looking
Well,
at? I was going
before
to
we
give
get
this a
there,
Oh,
so here's a big thing.
we do need to talk about Reva getting tortured, yeah, or getting force choked.
Yeah. So that line about her putting a tracker in the droid, that's dumb for a couple reasons. First of all, she's pretty much in doing that, she's owning up to her own incompetence. Or she's
So we are
anticipating
talking
herself
about when
being
she is convincing Darth Vader not to kill her.
yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So in putting a tracking device into Leia's droid, she's anticipating herself being incompetent. Because like, you're in the supposedly a fortified base. It's hop, skip, and a jump away from Darth Vader's castle. Why would we expect that Leia would escape?
Weren't you saying
Like,
earlier, Gandalf, that was like the intelligent thing to do was to put a tracking device into her droid?
uh, with regards to what her parents should have done, yes. Like, or to keep track of where your kid is, you'd put a GPS into a tracker into the droid. Like that would be the smart thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but in this case, she's like the whole idea is to use Leia as bait to get Obi-Wan. Like she shouldn't care where Leia is as long as Obi-Wan goes to find Leia. So in taking someone prisoner and then putting a tracking device in them, like okay, sure, you could say it would be a smart thing to do just in case she gets rescued, then you can follow him around. It's like where she's going. She's going back to her parents on Alderaan. You don't need a tracking device. Anyone with 2 brain cells to rub together can figure out where the kid is going to go.
That's what I said. It's the one
Well,
brain
not
cell
necessarily,
take.
depending on who rescues her, right? Because if the person who rescues her has 2 brain cells to rub together, they won't do that.
Sure.
Right, but
But it's
that's
like,
what
where else is she
Obi-Wan
going to go?
is
And
trying to do.
yeah, like
Brock,
his whole prerogative is to get her
back to Alderaan
back to
immediately.
Alderaan. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're telling me about the Obi-Wan in this story, and I'm thinking in terms of like what would a smart person do? What would someone who actually gives a shit about this kid do? Oh, I don't know. Take her directly to the place where where it would cause the most damage. Like he would probably take her somewhere isolated and lose the trail. And so this is like 4D chess for this character to have placed the tracking device and to know that that is exactly what would happen. Um,
It's almost
and it's
like
another
it was
case of Obi-Wan not being smart.
yeah. And so Reva
Yeah.
is able to track them that way, and that's the only way she's able to save herself from Darth Vader, who I don't think I've ever seen Darth Vader start choking someone out and stop besides Padme?
He does it in A New Hope.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
I find your lack of
he
faith
does it.
disturbing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not like he didn't fucking lift him out of his chair and is like fucking kill you and
Yeah.
then because he's pretty pissed off when he comes in. I mean, think about it. She lets Obi-Wan go, basically. It's under her command, at least.
Yeah.
But she's the bestest ever, so she has to survive. And then Darth Vader says the most retarded line, Brock. She tells him, like, oh, I put a tracking device on them. And then Darth Vader lowers her and says, it seems I underestimated your abilities.
Like that easily?
Yes. Tell him. Gandalf, tell him.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact line, but it was something to that effect. And it was sort of, it wasn't really an apology. It was just oh, yeah, you might be right. Maybe I shouldn't kill you right
Wow.
now.
It was just that's all. And so
I guess
then
It's so dumb. It's so binary. It's like, you lost everything. No, I didn't. Oh, okay, never mind.
exactly. In fact, oh, so this part is so stupid because Darth Vader comes in. He's like, "You let Obi-Wan go. You let Kenobi go." Is something like he's pissed off about her letting Kenobi go.
Okay, can I point out how dumb it looks whenever he force chokes her? Like she's wearing a harness, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
And it looks like she's literally being pulled up by the center of mass on that harness. Like it doesn't look like she's being force choked.
Remember when you could just like pretend you and your friend in middle school could just like be like, oh, come into class and then force choke me and I'm gonna pretend to choke.
Well, let's just stand on your tippy toes and then
choking.
just Photoshop me up a few inches. It's not that complicated, but that
You don't
doesn't
even
look realistic.
Yeah, it doesn't have to go that far. But anyways. Oh, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so he comes in. He comes
I just
in.
saw it and I was like, I had to say it.
He comes in. And he's pissed off. He's like, Kenobi escaped. You let Kenobi escape, whatever. And then she's like, oh, I put a tracker on their ship. So now, not only can we get Kenobi, but we can get the whole path. The path, right? We've been telling you about. And so then Darth Vader lets her down. And like it's the next line or like the second next line that she says, she's like, the path doesn't matter. It's only Kenobi that matters. And it's like, what is this?
Yeah. Right. Like that's. So go ahead.
No. I go ahead, Gandalf. Support what I've been saying.
Yeah. So she's like, only Kenobi matters. Okay. So what you're saying is that whole torture scene was, unfounded. It didn't matter.
Just completely pointless.
Tracking the girl is dumb because, if you're not trying to get. Okay. So here's the thing.
Is she playing Vader? Like, I don't know.
Here's the big thing. If you rewatch that scene, well, you don't have to rewatch it. You know what I'm talking about. Everything they need is on that one snowspeeder. Like, Kenobi's there. Their leverage is there. And the traitor, who has now been revealed to be a traitor, is there. And she...
Two times.
Like, twice now.
had to be twice. The first time they were like, "Oh, we believe you."
Yeah, and then the second time, just like, yeah, no, she pretty much owned up to it.
Look
and
at
then
this,
escaped.
Brock. Look at them walk through with Leia under his coat.
I'm looking.
It's ridiculous. So yeah, it's like everything you need is on that one ship. All you need to do is go get the ship. You don't need to track it. You don't need to, figure out where they're going. You just need to send a couple TIE fighters out, shoot them down, and then go pick up the bodies. Like it's the dumbest writing.
There's also a and I don't remember if this is in episode 2 or 3, but there's a part where Obi-Wan fixes Leia's droid, and
Yeah.
I was just completely baffled. I was like, first of all, this is part of Obi-Wan's characterization that he does not understand droids. He does not know how to
Yeah.
fix droids. He does not know how to pilot. He's not a good pilot. In fact, they have to hire Han because he doesn't know how to pilot. Like, maybe he doesn't know how and isn't a skilled pilot are two different things. He isn't a skilled pilot.
Yeah, he
And
doesn't like it. Flying is
and
for
he
droids.
and he doesn't like exactly. He doesn't really he doesn't like
That's what's missing from
understanding
him, right?
droids.
He's not skilled, but he's strong in spirit, right? So the skill, like his ability to articulate himself to do complex things in the world, is diminished. Yet he retains his strength. That should be what he's like, right? Similar to Roshi, right? Where it's like Roshi, it's like, oh, I don't use the Nimbus. Oh, I can't really put the fire out, but I can destroy the mountain, right?
Or
But he just sucks.
let me use the micro band to my own means, right? And then it fails him because he doesn't know how
Yeah,
to use technology.
he's not technologically adept, but is strong in spirit. That's the way that Obi-Wan should be, where
But would
he
that
has the intuition to do what's right, and the fact that he has the intuition to do what's right carries them through the situations. It's not really like, from what you're telling me, that's not what's happening in the series.
and the thing is, like, Obi-Wan as a spiritual father figure that is, let's say, one step below on the hierarchy as Master Yoda. Like, if you
Yeah,
had Yoda fix a droid, would that surprise you? It would absolutely surprise me.
it would be shocking if he was working on a ship or if he was piloting something or like any of
Right,
that.
because he's the complete antithesis of the mechanical. He's all spiritual,
He's
right?
all natural, right?
Right. And so Obi-Wan should be a step in that direction, and he fixes this droid for Leia, and it was a jarring moment for me. I was like, "Wait a minute, what? What'd you think about that, Gandalf?"
It didn't really stand out to me. It seemed odd because you've never seen him really do anything
Well,
like that.
remember in episode 1
There's a
when
reason you haven't seen it, Gandalf.
yeah, because in episode 1 prequels, Princess Amidala is about to award R2 with awards for saving the ship when they're trying to get through the blockade. And Obi-Wan down talks droids. He's like, "Why are we honoring a droid or whatever?" Like, Obi-Wan really does not appreciate droids. And it follows because in episode 4 he's like, "I don't recall ever owning a droid." And in this, apparently, he's able to fix
Yeah,
droids, and he's like a master of droids as well. So I don't get it.
yeah.
It's those little things, though,
That moment
Gandalf, that
didn't.
betray the spirit of it. Let me say. And so
Yeah.
the last thing we see in this episode, what is the last thing we see in this episode?
They're flying off in the ship that had like their flying aircraft carrier.
Yeah,
Literally.
yeah.
And and there's this YouTube video. I think it's Janobot that made it, of Obi-Wan walking into the tomb. The video is called Obi-Wan Finds the Jedi Council. And it's like the whole Jedi Council is like photoshopped into these tombs. Anyways, sorry. I was just reminded of that. So yeah, the last thing in the episode is like they're flying away in their aircraft carrier under no resistance whatsoever. Like
Yeah,
those two snow speeders
what
just came
are
in.
Imperial Star Destroyers, Brock?
Yeah,
Like, that's the
like
thing. The force of the
Wasn't there
Empire
a
was
single line that said that no one would be crazy enough to do the thing they're doing, so therefore they can get away with it?
yeah.
It's
Okay.
stupid.
No, it
But
makes sense then.
the whole threat of the Empire is that technological power, and like the whole using Star Destroyers. Like, what is the first scene you see in Star Wars? Any of you, either of you? What's
The
the first thing you
imposition
see?
of technology on chaos.
How so? What is the first thing you see?
We see space, right?
No, like the
And
first scene after the crawl.
after I thought, and maybe I'm getting my movies mixed up, but I thought it was a shot of space, and then a star destroyer, like coming into
Chasing this tiny
frame
little
and
ship.
going and going and going, and we're just being impressed by the
Yes, you're
technological
right. Yeah.
significance of what we're seeing, right?
Well, it's not just a Star Destroyer. Gandalf is right. It's chasing the Corellian cruiser
Yeah.
that has Princess Leia on it.
But the
And so,
idea is that the scope of the technology just keeps going and going and going, and we're seeing like guns upon guns upon. It's like we're seeing miles of spaceship travel across the screen, right?
right, and that's the whole idea, and that's where you get the idea. Like, here's the Rebel Alliance. They're very insignificant compared to this massive force,
Yeah.
right? Massive technological force, and it really is not portrayed here well at all. I don't think it has been portrayed well in any, like, the
Any
Empire,
Disney, yeah,
any
they
Disney.
don't get it.
They don't understand the Empire at all. They don't understand the actual threat of the Empire, which is more than just like, oh, well, here's some Sith Inquisitors that have red lightsabers. They're powerful now too. And it's like, no, it's more than that. It is
I
the
just hate how arbitrary it is. It really frustrates me.
yeah, it's not the best. So, I think we're at a point where we can give episode 4 a rating. I was gonna give it 1 skeleton baby out of 5.
I give episode 3 say like a 0.5 or something. I'll give this a little. You watch this, take whatever my rating was for that one and add 0.2 to it, because I don't think that episode 4 was as bad as episode 3. Like, episode 3 was
Catastrophe.
Disney, yeah,
A
was
cluster, as we say.
a cluster. uh, but more than that, it was a destroyed Obi-Wan's character in episode 3.
Mm,
Episode 4
There's
was just a whole bunch of plot holes and dumb stuff. But I don't think they didn't do as much damage in episode 4 as they did in 3.
More to the world, like the universe, less to Obi-Wan. Episode 3 did more damage to Obi-Wan. I think I'll agree with you there.
yeah.
Yeah.
I would probably give 3 a 1.25. I'd give this one a 1.5. Just because it's a lot of the stuff I don't like about this is I don't want to call it arbitrary, but it's very aesthetic, and it's less unholy. Um, in the sense that it's like, okay, we've already established the incompetence of Obi-Wan, and he's kind of taken a back seat from the look of it, insofar as what he's doing to affect the plot. He's there and he's doing the Obi-Wan thing, but ultimately, who is affecting the plot? Who is changing what's happening in the story? You know, more damage I think was done to Obi-Wan's character in Episode 3 than 4. And this one is very much just like a bad episode of TV from the look of it.
But
And a
episode
lot of,
4 does a lot of damage to the world, I feel.
yeah, the world building is sort of like the idea of them being able to just leave is dumb. And it really betrays the idea of, uh, of the dark side and of the Sith and of technology, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Mix the
Well,
It's
that's
like,
the
oh,
other
well, we
thing.
got a
Like
tracker on you, but it's like, you gotta show
the
me something. It can't be that easy.
the Sith don't want to be known. Like, the Sith don't want people going around saying like, "Oh, our Sith ruler is great." That's the whole idea of the Sith, is that they want to be mired in chaos such that they're undefinable, to where they're able to sneak their way through when order persists, which is what Sidious does in the prequels. And so the fact that like there's like Sith Inquisitors, I don't like that to begin with. The whole fact that that is like known in the galaxy it diminishes the idea, like we were saying,
Well,
that the
the
whole
greatest trick
thing.
the devil ever told or ever played, right? Or the greatest lie the devil ever told was that the devil isn't real, right?
Yeah, that he
It's this
doesn't
idea.
exist.
There's this idea that it's not that the Sith is greater than the Jedi, but rather that the Jedi is an invalid way of seeing the world.
Hmm.
And so yeah,
And
for the Sith to be playing this sort of like we're going out and we're gonna point a finger at you and be like, "Not a Jedi, are you?" That's kind of dumb.
Mhm.
yeah, it's very contrived. And so, yeah, we get to the end of episode 4. I think we're gonna do episode 5 and 6. We'll do an episode about that next week. What do you think about that, Gandalf?
So, maybe.
Did you have fun doing this today?
Uh, I mean, it was good to talk with someone about it, but
It's kind of draining, right?
yeah, it's kind of just look. There are channels, like Geeks and Gamers and whoever that guy's name, Scriber, or something like that. Channels like theirs who like they build their audience based on uh talking shit about Star Wars, like new Star Wars. And I get there's a certain catharsis about talking trash about things, but I really just don't enjoy doing it in
You
general.
see, Gandalf, you
But
just don't feel the responsibility just yet.
but when
We'll
you fuck with
continue this
Star Wars,
conversation after the stream, but go ahead, Gandalf, continue. Because
I
I know
guess
what you mean. I mean, we as a channel, Brock and I, have basically only talked positively about what we've
Mhm.
yeah,
reviewed. This is the first negative thing.
yeah.
Yeah, we really haven't done any takedowns. We haven't done a shit the mic necessarily. But I do feel it. I know what you're saying because there's a feeling of sort of like you're not contributing something if you're just tearing something down. You know,
Yeah.
I don't like tearing something down. That's kind of why Get the Mic has been a really positive thing so far. Is that we think that there's too much tearing things down and something should be built up instead, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
But go
that's
on.
generally the sentiment on my end. But you fuck with Star Wars.
Yeah.
You
I
get the
don't really
Gandalf
mind.
wrath.
Yeah, I don't really mind talking shit about things.
So
You
next
know,
week we'll do 5 and 6, eh?
sure. I don't know what day because I'm going up to Wisconsin
We'll figure out.
on
I mean,
Wednesday.
don't
We'll work it
you
out.
don't have to reveal such personal information on stream, but we'll
Not
figure it
like we
out.
didn't do that when we talked about our beer, but
Our beer. Oh yeah. Well, you know.
but yeah, I would like to continue this maybe in the next week or two. Just to maybe I'll watch the episodes. Maybe
I have them
I'll
if you
watch
want to
these
come
ones.
watch them. We
Yeah,
have
maybe
you're
I'll
gonna have
catch up.
you're gonna have quite a bit of time off, so we should be able to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's just look. I don't normally watch stuff like this, right? You
It's
know
so
this about me,
trashy.
Al. I don't. I've avoided a lot of trashy media over the past couple of years because it all sort of starts to blend together. And I think Gandalf, you can see what I'm talking about when I say that it's like it's not contributing much, right? It's very vapid, and it's kind of soul sucking to sit here and watch this and try to take it seriously, right?
Yeah.
It was a chore
Definitely
for
is.
me too, Gandalf, you told me, you were like, "Hey, what do you think about Kenobi?" I was like, "I haven't watched it, but if you want to talk about it, I'll watch it." And so I watched it so that we could have this
Yeah.
conversation, so that I could get you involved with the channel, because I think you have some good things to say about media, and we would like to include you on like our Star Wars series. I think you'd be a good proponent of, you'd want
I
to.
think when we get
say.
into Star Wars proper, I think we should do a sort of a round table.
I think we could.
Okay.
We have room for maybe 2 more people, but I think that's our limit. But three is fine right now. I mean, I think Gandalf, you've been a good guest appearance, and we won't always be shitting on things. Like next week, we'll do this. We'll do this with Kenobi. We'll finish up the series. And then the next time we bring you on, we promise it'll be a positive thing.
Yeah, Gandalf. You had said earlier in the stream that you weren't as familiar with this show. I would recommend you going back and watching a little bit of Dragon Ball and watching what we've done so far, because this isn't what we typically do. It's normally a positive, like, hey, there's really a lot to appreciate and you can be inspired by this.
Yeah.
Not what we've done here.
No, to clarify, yes, I have enjoyed talking it out, but it's kind of a bittersweet thing because Star Wars is something I've loved since I was like 3, and as I've gotten older, I've come to realize, oh, there's actually more to that. It's not just lightsabers and ships and stuff. There's
It's not just entertainment.
mythos to this. Yeah, this is something you can watch and better your life from if you actually put your brain into it instead of just your eyeballs. And seeing Kenobi, it's like, this is bad on every level.
It hurts.
Plot sucks. They've destroyed the mythos. They've destroyed the characters. They're trying to introduce Reva as being a badass when she's clearly not a good person. And she's getting her own show too. So
wait, she is?
Yeah,
I don't know. Is that for sure?
I don't know if it's for sure, but I read.
I don't think it's going to happen.
We'll see. We'll see about that. It sounds like the Rian Johnson trilogy also was supposed to happen, never did.
Yeah. So anyway, I just really, really do not like what they've done with Kenobi, and so, yeah, it's good to talk it out with my friends. But it's also kind of a feels bad because it's like I wanted something that was going to be at least better than mediocre, and what we got was garbage.
Was subpar.
Whenever we eventually talk about A New Hope, it's kind of one of those things where, I think that you would be a good fit to be a part of that conversation, so that we can hash out how we bridge the gap between people who want to talk about the mythological and people who just kind of practically like to enjoy it and be entertained by it,
But to say all those things, Gandalf, about how you feel about Kenobi, that it's bittersweet because it's sweet that you're able to talk it out with your friends, but it's bitter because the thing that you once loved is now a shell of its former self. Is that about right?
Yeah, it's a whisper of what it once was.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and so I think that's a good place to kind of wrap things up. I think we'll leave it at that, and then we can talk about Kenobi Part 2, which will be episodes 4, 5, and 6 next week. So please check that out. Anything that you guys want to add, Brock, Gandalf, before we close out here?
Nothing from me.
I'm not entirely surprised necessarily. I didn't have high hopes going into this to hear what you guys had to say about it. Though there's something about it where I kind of wish it was worse. I kind of wish it was more egregiously bad, but there's something about it where it's just not. It's like the mundane evil that I'm watching here on the screen, where it's taking the idea, which I think is supposed to be more mythological, which is supposed to be more, it's like a high fantasy idea that Star Wars deals with, and just having it boil down to something like Kenobi is really demoralizing. So to see the last couple episodes and to talk about those. I'm not necessarily excited, let's say, but I do get some catharsis from, tearing down this demoralizing force.
It's always good to vanquish that which is corrupting. Yeah. So I think that's a good final word from Brock. So if you guys liked what you heard, you viewers, please give us a like. Subscribe to our channel. That red subscribe button is down there, and I know we don't have our little information on the side. We're working out how to do a 16:9 resource here. As you can see, we're kind of in the middle of it. I added Brock. I didn't know Brock was going to join, so I
I
added Brock
did
in the middle of it. But
surprise the two.
it's all good. It's all good. Don't worry about it. But if you did like what you hear, please give us a like, subscribe, like I said. And just remember, we upload normal episodes Monday and Thursday to YouTube, Tuesday and Friday to Rumble. We're also going to be doing these kind of special episodes and releasing some myth and movies here and there going forward. So if you're a fan of the channel, please tune in. Without further ado, I'm your host on the left, Owl.
I'm your host on the right, Brock.
I'm the guest in the middle, Gandalf.
Gandalf the Red, that is.
Gandalf the Red.
And we hope you guys have a good night.
In an enchanted land that seemed untouched by the steady march of time, there lived an old master named Gohan, who found a baby boy abandoned in the wilderness of the region. The old master raised the boy as his own child, and marveled as the youngster grew and became uncommonly strong. Now the boy, known as Goku, is on his own, and has become the sole guardian of his grandfather's most mystical possession, his Dragon Ball.